Hey, Tim Unkert here, and welcome to my mega tutorial on Ruby. Ruby is a fantastic language for writing quick scripts. It also is used with Ruby on Rails, and I use it for creating worksheets in mathematics, which you've probably seen in my video. In this mega tutorial, we're not going to cover Ruby on Rails, but we're going to cover the syntax basics of Ruby so you can get started and get a good background in Ruby. Okay, so I've created a file and I'm going to name the files with this naming scheme where I have the number of the file and then what we're talking about in the file. And you want to end the file with a .rb extension. I'm using an IDE called RubyMine. It is a paid IDE, but you can use a text editor to do this. I'll show you how to run a Ruby file from the command line. I'm just going to run it with the IDE, which I have a keyboard shortcut for that, but I will show you that on this first file, so you can do that as well. And let's get started, okay? So first we're going to talk about printing. So if I just want to print, it's very, very easy with Ruby. And I'm going to make a comment that I'm going to print to the screen. So I make a comment with the hashtag symbol, and then I can type a comment afterwards, and I can say I'm going to print to the screen my name. Okay, so I could now, to print to the screen, just type print and say something like, hello, my name is Tim. Okay. All right, so now to run this from the command line, I'm going to open up an integrated terminal, but you can open up a terminal. And what I would do to run this is just type Ruby and then the name of the file. I'm going to start to type 001 and hit tab. Sorry about that. Tab to autocomplete it. And I've written Ruby and then the name of the file, and I just hit enter. And you see it runs the file. It says, hello, my name is Tim. And it has a period here, and then the prompt here is on the same line. Okay, so with print, what we would do is do a /n for a new line character, and that's going to now, when we run it, the prompt will be on the next line. Now I'm going to run it with the keyboard shortcut here for the IDE, and you'll see we get, hello, my name is Tim. Okay, if you need it to refresh any of that, you can always pause the video, and at any point you can pause the video and go back and rewatch it. Okay, so that's one way to print to the screen. Another way, if we don't want to use that new line character, we can use something called puts. So I'm going to make a comment here and say puts does not need the new line character. So that /n we don't need. Okay, and if I want to use puts, I would say puts and say something like, hello, my name is Tim. Okay, and now when I run this, we'll see the same result as print, but I didn't use the new line character. So that's a little difference with puts. When printing, we can use variables when printing. So I'm going to declare and initialize some variables here. So let's declare and initialize variables to use with printing. So I'm just making comments here for all this stuff. I can say something like my, and we usually use snake case, so in Ruby, as with in Python. So I'm going to say my underscore name equals Tim. And so that's going to be one variable, and my underscore greeting equals, let's do hello. Okay. And now what I can do is print this to the screen with puts. So I can say puts and then do the variable my greeting plus, I'm going to concatenate on. So I'm going to say, hello, how are you? And then I'll do a space there. So notice I'm concatenating this string here. That's what we call it, concatenating. So let's make a comment about that. So I'm concatenating variables and strings. And the variables I'm concatenating are strings. Okay, and then I'm going to put a plus here, and then the variable my name, and then I'm going to do a plus, and I'll end that with a question mark. Okay, so this concatenates the string and the variables together. Let's now run this. And we see, hello, my name is Tim, the first two times we did it, and then, hello, how are you, Tim, question mark. Okay, so we've concatenated the variables and the string together. Okay. We can also change the values of these variables and then reprint. So let's change the values of these variables. So I can say, whoops, I don't want that. Sometimes it auto-completes before me. So I'm going to say my underscore name now equals not Tim, but Joe. Okay. And I can say my underscore greeting now doesn't equal hello, it equals get lost, which isn't very nice, but we're gonna go with it. And now let's print these new values. Let's print the new values of the variables to the screen. Okay, so I'm going to use puts again. I'm going to say puts, and then my greeting plus, we'll do a comma and a space here, and then plus my name plus a period. So before I run this, see if you can figure out what this new puts statement with this new concatenation, what that is going to print to the screen. So let's do that. And did you guess correctly? It says, get lost, Joe. Okay. All right. Last thing I want to talk about with this file, as the file is getting long, is just introduce you to one string method. And I'm going to cover more as we go. But we can take the name and put it all in uppercase. So we can do puts, and then the name of the variable, my name, dot, and then we can do a method on the string. And you'll notice my IDE comes up with all these methods that I can use. I'm going to do upcase, okay? And I don't know if you noticed, but it does have a place for arguments that I could pass in parentheses. But since I don't have any arguments here, you notice my IDE is giving me a warning saying, if we highlight over it, it says no arg method call has parentheses. So really there's no arguments that I'm going to pass into this upcase here. All right, so let's run this last thing here for this file. And we'll see that we took the variable my name and made it all uppercase. Okay, cool. All right, so now let's create a second file. And I have a bunch of string methods. So the way I named this in my repository, I'll leave a link to the repository in the description. I named it, this is a Ruby file I'm selecting here. I named it 002a underscore string underscore methods. And then it's a .rb. Now, you notice when I create this, I don't have to put the .rb because my IDE is going to do that for me. But if you aren't using this IDE, if you're using a text editor of some other sort and running your Ruby in the command line, just remember to put the .rb at the end. Okay. When I made this GitHub repository, there are a lot of string methods, so I broke it up into a few different files. So I'm going to create a few different variables. So let's make a comment. We are creating a few different variables. And first one's going to be my underscore name. That's going to be Timothy Unkert. And then next one is going to be my underscore website equals, and I'm going to give you the website name, https://unkertmedia.com. That's a shameless plug for my website, and I included it in a tutorial. Shame on me. But anyways, all right. And then I'm going to say seriously, check out the website. My badly formatted string. So I'm going to make a badly formatted string here. And I'm going to have like a bunch of spaces here. And then I'm going to say, hello, how are you? And then another bunch of spaces. So this string is like, it's not the nicest string there. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to change the strings with built-in methods. So let's change the strings with built-in methods. Okay. So for instance, let's do print and then do my name is, and then do plus here, and we'll do my underscore name plus, and my website is, and let me just move out this sidebar there so you get a little bit more room. And my website is unckertmedia.com. Check it out. We'll do a plus because we're going to concatenate on my website. And we'll do a plus and then just do a period and a /n because remember with print, we need the new line character. All right, so this is just, nothing has changed. So let's just run it to confirm that nothing has changed for this file. Hi, my name is Timothy Unkert, and my website is this Unkert Media. I wonder if I click on this, if I can go to the website. Oh yeah, look at that. And go to the website and look, ooh, I have a link to a mega C++ tutorial. It will load faster. I'm recording. That's why it's loading a bit slow. But it has some videos there. Wow, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool website. Maybe you should check it out. Anyways, let's close that out. Sorry about that. There's another shameless plug for the website. Check it out, though. Anyways, now let's change some stuff. So we're going to do print and then my name is, and we'll concatenate on my name, but we're going to, not my website, my name, but we're going to use the upcase method. So we're going to do dot upcase, okay, plus, and then we'll concatenate on, and my website is, and we saw upcase from before, but there's another one we can use. We can capitalize the first letter with capitalize. Okay, so this is the cool thing about Ruby. It's like upcase. Okay, that means it's uppercase. It's capitalized. That means we're going to capitalize. It's a nice readable language, even maybe more so than Python. You see languages like C. You might have like string args. Like all this stuff is like C out for C++. It's like that's not as readable. Okay. Anyways, we're going to put the new line character on the end here. And let's run this. And we'll see that we took my name, made it all uppercase, and then the H and the HTTPS got capitalized. Okay, likewise, we can also use downcase. So we can do something like print, my name is plus, and then my underscore name dot downcase, okay, to make it all lowercase letters, plus, and then we'll do and my website is, and we'll do my underscore website, and then do a plus and a /n there. And you notice I didn't do anything to my website. I just wanted to get out that it's Unkert Media. Please don't leave the video. Please stay. But check out the website. And so now we run and we see my name is Timothy Unkert. It's all lowercase letters. Took the T and the U and they made it all lowercase. And the website prints out the same. Just in case what you're wondering what it is, if you just type unckertmedia.com into the browser, that will bring you to the website as well. Okay. All right. Now, we could just use this on a non-variable as well. So we could use some of these methods on a non-variable. For instance, let's use puts now and just use a string. We'll say a book title that's really cool. So let's say this is the name of a book title that's really cool, okay? And we want to capitalize that. Well, we can do capitalize, okay? Just like that. Now let's run it. And we see that the book title, it got capitalized at the beginning. Pretty cool, okay? So we can capitalize even just a string, or we can have a variable that represents a string and use that as well. Okay. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is creating a new string or a new variable that's a string from an old variable and using a method to format the old variable. And we'll say we use a method to format the old variable. Okay, so for instance, we have this one, we haven't used it yet, my badly formatted string. Okay, so what I want to do is create a variable called my nicely formatted string. And we're going to use a string method on that. And we're going to take my badly formatted string and use this method called strip. Okay, and we're going to strip it. And what this will do is take the white space before and after that we've left here and just create a nice new variable. And now let's print out the nicely formatted variable. So we'll do puts my nicely formatted string, and we'll run this. And we see, hello, how are you? There's no space beforehand. Now, if we did the badly formatted string, you're not going to see the space afterward. But if we do my badly formatted string, you'll see there's space before. So you see my badly formatted string, it has all this space here. The strip method took care of that white space for us. So that's a cool method in Ruby. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is finding the length of the string. So let's find the length of the strings. Okay. So I'm going to do puts my badly formatted string dot length, and then puts my nicely formatted string dot length. Okay. And you should see the nicely formatted string is less. Okay. So you notice the badly formatted string, because it has a space before and the space after that you can't see, is 47 characters. The nicely formatted string is only 19 characters because we've taken away that white space. But that's a method. You can find the length of a string in Ruby. Okay, now let's talk about escape characters. These aren't really methods, not really methods, but I thought I'd include them here. Okay, so we're going to talk about putting in quotes. So let's do puts and put in double quotes. Now I have double quotes surrounding this entire string. So if I want double quotes inside the string, I have to use escape characters. So I'm going to say something like I said, and then I'm going to do an escape character and a double quote, hi, and escape character and a double quote here. Okay, and now this is going to allow me, these two escape characters are going to allow me to have double quotes around hi. So let's now run this. And we'll see here, I said hi, and we have the double quotes around hi. So you can put double quotes with inside a string with double quotes. Now, if I didn't use that escape character, that would be an issue. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is tabbing over. So I can use a /t to tab over text, and I can say something like, this is tabbed over like a boss. Anyways, and then the other thing I want to talk about is the one we've seen, the new line character. So we can say this is the first line, do a /n, and then this is the second line. Okay. All right. Now let's run this. And we can see this is tabbed over like a boss. And then this statement here, which is only a put statement on one line, actually produces two lines. So this is the first line. This is the second line. Okay. All right. So that's all I wanted to talk about in that file, because that file is getting a little bit large. So we're going to create another string methods file. So let's bring up the sidebar here. I'm going to create a new Ruby file, and I'm going to call this 002B, and we'll call it more string methods. And remember, I have the .rb extension on the end. my IDE will create that for me. Let's just get rid of the sidebar here, make some room, and let's create some variables. All right, so let's create and initialize some variables. All right, so we're going to have a variable called my name, and I'm going to set that equal to Timothy Unkert. Like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. It really does help the channel grow. And then I'm going to have one for my website. That's going to be, again, https://unkertmedia.com. You can just type Unkert Media into the browser and it will bring you to the site. Okay, so now what we can do is I want to talk about printing out specific characters in a string. So printing out specific characters in a string. So printing. Okay, so what we could do is we could do puts, and let's focus on my name. Let's print the first character, and that's the character at index 0. Now, in programming languages, most programming languages have you start at index 0 for a string or for an array. Okay, something like R, I think, starts at index 1, but if I remember correctly, but most programming languages start at index 0. So this is going to print out T, okay? And let's confirm by running it. And we get T right down here, okay? Right down here. Okay, now if we want to print out the last character, like many programming languages, you can do a -1. So we can do puts my name, then in square brackets, -1. Now this doesn't work with everything, looking at C++. So this is gonna print out T, the lowercase t, which is the last character of the string. Last character of the string. Still haven't had all my coffee this morning. Let's just run and confirm. All right, and so we get the lowercase t at the end of the string. In this case, this is the first character of the string. Okay. Now, let's say we want to print out the M in Timothy. Well, remember, indices start at 0 in most programming languages, except R and a few others. Okay, so what I would do is I would do a puts my name. Now, if we start at 0, T is 0, I is 1, M is 2. Okay, so we want to do index 2, and this should print out M. So let's run this, and we see we get the M down here. Okay. All right, we can also, this is a fun thing to do in Python as well, but in Ruby we can create a slice of a string, and we can do puts my name, and then do the square brackets, and we'll do a slice from 0 to 3. And let's make a note, this prints out Tim, goes from index 0 up through index 2, but not including 3, okay? And let's just confirm by running this. And we get Tim. So in index 3, in case you need to remember, so we have 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, index 3 is the, not 0, is the O. So it does not print out index 3. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is finding the index of a specific character in the string. So to do that, use puts, and then my website dot index, and this time we pass in an argument. We pass in, if we want to find a specific character, let's say we want to find the U in Unkert Media. So that would be right here. So we're going to figure out the index of that. Let's now run this. And we get 8. Okay, so it's index 8. And let's check. Okay, so we got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's at index 8. Cool. All right. We can also, again, we can do the length. So puts my website dot length. This is going to give me the length. And let's run that because the length is 23. Okay. So we find the length and now we can slice it. Let's slice it from 8 to the end of the string. So we'll do puts my website, and we'll do a slice from 8 to index 23. Remember, it's not going to print out 23, okay? Because actually the length is 23, but the last index or the last letter is at index 22, because remember we start at 0, okay? Let's run this, and we see we get unkertmedia.com, okay? Now, if I did puts my website, and we just for confirmation did index 23 here, now we're going to get nothing, right? Because we don't have anything there. Other languages, you might get an index out of error range, but not in Ruby in this case. Also do puts my website. I just want to show you the last letter, 22. And if we run that, so see, we're getting nothing here. And then we're getting the M from the last letter at 22, okay? So that's interesting in Ruby. We're not getting an index out of error range, but they don't really have anything there because the length is 23, where we found here, but the indices start at index 0. So you're only going to go from 0 to 22, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's talk about data types. So I'm going to create a file, and I'm going to call this file going to be 003 underscore data types, and remember, add the .rb if your IDE is not doing it for you. Mine is doing it for me. All right, so let's get rid of that. So we've talked about strings. So an example of that would be my name is Timothy Unkert. And we can figure out what type of variable is with the .class method. So we could do puts, and let's do my name, and we'll do .class. Okay. And if we run this, look at that, we get string. Okay, so it's telling me it's type string. So let's make a little comment here that it outputs string. Okay. All right, now let's create an integer. So let's create and initialize an integer. Okay, so I'm going to say my underscore age equals 46. And let's just confirm it. We'll do a puts my age dot class. Okay, and let's run this. And we see we get integer. And let's make note of that. So it outputs integer. Cool. Okay. Next thing, let's make a float. So let's create, or let's declare and let's have a spelling error up here. And let's declare and initialize a float. Okay. So I'm going to call it pi, and we'll set it equal to 3.14. So a float is a number with decimal point at the end. And let's confirm it. We'll do puts pi dot class, and we'll run it. And we see that we have float. So this outputs float. Okay. All right. Now let's create a Boolean. So Boolean is a variable that can have values of true or false. So let's declare and initialize a Boolean. All right. And so we'll create a Boolean. I'm going to call it isProgrammer, set it equal to true. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to do puts isProgrammer dot class. Okay. And let's run it. And we run it and we get a true class, which is what it outputs in Ruby. So it's going to output true class. Okay. Now, we could do another one. Let's do is English teacher and set that equal to false. And now we're going to do puts. Move this up a little bit. Puts is English teacher dot class. And we're going to get a false class. Okay. So it outputs false class. Okay. Okay. We also have a type, a nil type. Okay. Let's take a look at a nil type. So in this case, we'll say has money. Has money equals nil. All right, so has money equals nil. So we're going to do puts has money dot class, and let's run it. And we get nil class. Okay, so this outputs nil class. Okay. All right. Another type of data structure is arrays. Those are very important. So let's talk about arrays. So I'm going to say my underscore ARR for array. And I'm going to do array dot new and give it a length of 10. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do puts my underscore ARR dot class. And let's run this. And we get array. So this outputs array. Okay. All right. We can also talk about hashes, which are very important. These are kind of, if you're familiar with Python, these are kind of like dictionaries. Hashes, so you can store a key value pair. It's like a dictionary in Python, sort of. So we can say my underscore hash equals, and we do curly braces like this, and then we do name, and we do this arrow, double arrow, Timothy Unkert. We can do age, do a double arrow, 46, and then we can do website, and put my website in there. Okay, and we don't have to put a comma after the last thing in our hash. And so we go here and we can do puts my underscore hash dot class. Let's run this. And we'll see it outputs hash. So it outputs hash. Okay. All right. So we are making our way through Ruby pretty good. Thanks for staying for this part. Now we're going to talk about arithmetic. So doing a little bit of math in Ruby, nothing too complex though. So I'm going to create a file, and I'm going to call this, in the repository I called it 04A. I'm not really sure why, but let's just stick with that. So 004A underscore arithmetic, because I go to 5 right after this, .rb. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's do some arithmetic. Okay. So we can add in Ruby. So let's do puts 2 plus 3. We'll run that. We get 5. Pretty expected. Okay. So this outputs 5. We can add a float. So in this case, we added 2 integers, right? So it outputted 5. So let's add a float plus an integer and see what it outputs. And you'll see it outputs a float. Okay. So it outputs 5.0. We can subtract. So we can subtract 2 integers. So 10 minus 2. If we run this, we get 8. Very expected. So it outputs 8 here. Now let's do an integer minus a float, and let's check out our output. And we get 8.0, so we get a float. So when we're mixing the integers and floats, we're getting floats. Even though, you could represent 8.0 as 8, right? It's the same value, it's equal, but it does output a float. Let's do multiplication. So we'll do puts 4 times 5, 2 integers, multiply them together, and we get an integer. We get 20. Okay, so this outputs 20. Now let's do puts integer times float 5.0. I think you can guess what's going to come out. We get 20.0, so we get a float. So it outputs 20.0. Now, division. This is always interesting. So I always check out the division in each language that I'm reviewing. So we're going to do puts 12 divided by 5. So an integer divided by an integer. Now, 12 divided by 5, if you did that on a calculator, you would get 2.4. Let's see what we get when we divide 2 integers in Ruby. And so we get 2, we get an integer. So it chops off the decimal part. So keep that in mind. So it outputs 2. But if we let's do a float divided by an integer, what is this going to output? So see if you can guess. So it outputs 2.4. Okay, now let's do an integer divided by a float. What will this output? We're getting 2.4, okay? All right, and let's do a float divided by a float. Okay, what is this going to output? Also 2.4, okay? So this is one thing to take in mind when you're doing an integer divided by an integer in Ruby. It's going to chop off the decimal portion. So you may want to convert them to floats. Well, you do want to convert them to floats if you want an exact value. There are circumstances where you just want integer division. So keep that in mind. This is how Ruby behaves. Okay, another important thing in programming is the modulo operator. So we'll do 12 and a percentage sign 5. This is going to give me the remainder of 12 divided by 5. Okay, and let's run it to confirm. We should get 2. So we get 2. Prints 2, the remainder, and this is called the modulo operator. Okay. We can also talk about exponents. So we can do puts 2 and then 2 asterisks 3, and this is going to give me 2 raised to the 3rd power, which equals 8. Okay, and let's run this, and we get 8. Okay. All right. Let's create some variables. Okay, so let's have num1, and I'm going to declare them and initialize them all together. And I'll show you how to do that. So num1, num2, num3, and we'll say equals 4, comma 5, comma 6. So in this case, we declared and initialized 3 variables at once. So declared and initialized 3 variables at once. Okay. Now let's do a couple of things. So let's do puts, and in parentheses we'll do num1 plus num2, and then we'll do times num3, and then we'll also do puts num1 plus num2 without the parentheses times num_3. Okay, do you think we'll get the same result? Let's run it. And we get 54 in the first one and 34 in the second one. Well, why is that? Well, Ruby, like pretty much every other programming language, follows the order of operations. So in this first one, we're adding num1 and num2 first because they're in parentheses. So 4 plus 5 is 9, and then we're multiplying by 6. So 9 times 6 is 54. In the second one, we have no parentheses, so we do the multiplication first. So we do 5 times 6, which is 30, plus this 4, so we get 34. So just as a reminder, an acronym you can use is PEMDAS, which helps you remember order of operations. So P is for parentheses. That's evaluated first. Then you evaluate the exponents. Then from left to right, you evaluate both multiplication and division. They are kind of treated equally. And then after that, from left to right, you do addition and subtraction. So Ruby does follow PEMDAS, like pretty much every other programming language does as well, that I know about. I don't know anyone that doesn't. Okay, so that was arithmetic. Let's talk about type conversion. All right, so I'm going to create another file. And this file I'm going to call 005 underscore type underscore conversion dot RB. Remember, my ID is going to add that for me. Okay, and let's talk about converting the variables. So let's do my underscore name, set that equal to Tim. My underscore age, set that equal to 46. So we are declaring and initializing some variables there. And now let's do something. This is going to cause an error. So I'm going to do puts my name is plus my name plus and I am plus my age plus years old. Let's try and run this. Okay, we're getting a warning. The warning is cannot coerce string and integer to a common type. So this is telling me something might happen. Okay, and if we run it, we get an error here. Okay, so no implicit conversion of integer into string. It's a type error. Okay, so we're getting a type error. And the type error is no implicit conversion of integer into string. Okay, so now I'm going to go up here, and to comment this out, I can do Control and / and just comment it out, because that's going to cause me some errors there, which I do not want. Okay, but I can convert my age to a string and get this to print out. So to do that, I'm going to do puts. We'll do, again, the string, my name is, concatenate on my name, which is a string, and we'll concatenate on another string, and I am, and then we'll concatenate my age, but we're going to convert it to a string, so we'll do a dot to underscore s. Okay, and that's going to convert it to a string, and then we'll do a plus years old. Okay, so now, if if I run this, look at that, no problem. My name is Tim and I am 46 years old. Converted 46 to a string with this dot 2s, 2_s. Okay. It's a little bit of type conversion. Now let's look at our float that we used before, pi, which is 3.14. And what we're going to do now is do the same thing. We're going to do a float to a string. So we're going to do puts and say the value of pi is, and we'll do concatenate on this float, but we have to convert it to a string. So we're going to do 2s and then put a period at the end there. Okay. And now let's run this. And we see the value of pi is 3.14. Okay. And we aren't just limited to changing types from integer to string, a float to string. We could do a float to a integer. So I could create a variable called pi_int and say that's equal to pi, but converted to an integer. Okay. Okay. And now if we print it, we've got now pi_int is type integer. Let's confirm that. Let's do puts pi_int dot class. Okay. We run that. We see integer. Okay. So we're going to have to convert that. So what we're going to do is now puts the value of pi converted to an integer is, and we'll do concatenate on pi_int dot to s. Okay. And then plus period here. And let's run this. And we see the value of pi converted to an integer is 3. It chops off the decimal point, which makes sense. Okay, so it cuts off the decimal part. Okay, and actually, it should be up here, right? So we're cutting off the decimal part here. Okay. All right, so that's a little bit about type conversion. I also want to talk about some number methods. So I'm going to create a new file. Let's call this 06. So 006 underscore number underscore methods.rb. Okay. And let's close this out. And let's declare and initialize 3 integers. So I'm going to say num1, comma num2, comma num3 equals -2, 3, and 4. Okay. Now we can use a method called AVS, which is for absolute value. So the AVS method shows the distance away from 0 on the number line of a given number. Okay, so a lot of people say when you take the absolute value of a number, you always get a positive number, which is true, but it's because it's the distance away from 0 on the number line. That's the better explanation of it. Okay, which is always positive because the distance is positive, right? So let's do puts num1 dot abs, and let's just duplicate this line and do that for num2 and num3. And now let's run this program. And if we run it, we get 2, 3, 4. Oops. If I go up here and change, let's say this to a -4 and run it again, I'm still getting 2, 3, 4 because we're getting the distance away from 0 on the number line. Okay, so now let's create 3 decimal numbers, so 3 floats. So I'm going to say des1, comma, des_2, comma, des_3, comma, equals, let's do 3.14, 2.78, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, and 1.2345. Okay, those are my numbers. We can use the round method to round numbers to a certain decimal place. Okay, so if we want to round to one decimal place, we can do something like puts, because we're going to print it out, and we'll do des1 dot round, and we're going to enter in an argument of 1. So this is going to be rounding to one decimal place. And we can also do puts des2 dot round. Let's place in 2. This is going to round to 2 decimal places. Now let's say we just used round without an argument. So let's do puts des3 dot round. And if we do no argument, it's just going to round to 0 decimal places. Okay. And let's confirm that by running the program. And we see we get 3.1 here, 2.78. We're rounding the first one to 1 decimal place, the second one to 2 decimal places, and the third one is rounded to 0 decimal places. So we're essentially making it an integer. And that's the round method. Okay, with the round method, you do want to notice that the numbers are not permanently changed. Okay, so let's do puts des1, and we'll do 2 and 3 and run this. And we notice that the numbers, those are not permanently changed. We've got the original numbers back. So the round method only works at the time of use. Okay, we can also use the seal method. Okay, we can use the seal method to round up to a specified number of digits. So to round up to a specified number of digits. Okay, so for instance, let's do puts. We'll do the first one, des1 dot seal, and I'm going to show you what this comes up with in a moment. We're not passing in any argument, and then we'll do des2 dot seal, and we're going to pass in an argument of 2, and we'll also do puts des3 dot seal, and this time we'll pass in an argument of 1. Okay, and let's run this. Okay, so if we just do dot seal, it rounds 3.14 up to 4. Okay, so it's rounding up to 0 decimal places, so the next integer. If we do an argument of 2, we take this 2.78 and it puts it up to, the original number was 2.874, right? So it's less than 5, but it still rounds it up to 9, okay, the 2 decimal places. And then the last number was 1.2345. Notice we have a 3 here, but it still rounds it up to 1.3. Okay, and again, those numbers are not going to be permanently changed. In addition to seal, we can also use the floor method. So we can round down to a specified number of digits. So let's do that. We'll do puts des1 dot floor, and we're not going to give any argument there. So it's going to round down to 0 digits. And then we'll do des2 dot floor, and we're going to do 2 digits. And then we'll do des3 dot floor, and that's going to round down to 1 digit. Okay, and let's run this. And so we get 3 here, rounded the 3.14 down to just 3. We get 2.78, so it rounded the 2.78 down to just, even rounded it down, and then 1.2, it rounded it down, okay? All right, so those are some number methods. And next I want to talk about big decimal math. So I'm going to create another file, and I'm going to call this new file, let's call it 007 underscore math underscore class.rb. And we'll get rid of the side there. And we're going to bring in a bit of code. And to do that, we're going to use this keyword require. And I'm going to require big decimal / math. Okay. Now this is going to allow us to do a few things. And then I'm going to say include. And I'm going to do big math. Okay. All right. So now we're going to use some cool math things. And one of the cool things we can do is find the hypotenuse of a right triangle if we have the legs. So we can do something like puts, and we'll do math dot, and then we look for the method hypotenuse, and then we put in the legs. So if we have, let's say we have a 3, 4, 5 right triangle, the legs would be 3, 4. And this should give us 5, but pay attention here because it does give us 5.0 down here. Okay, so even though we put in integers, we get out a float. So let's just say this prints 5.0. It returns a float. Okay. All right. We can also do the sign of a number. So let's do puts math dot sign. And now I'm going to use this big math. So I'm going to do big math dot pi and pass an argument of 10. And so we're doing pi precision to 10 digits. And we'll do pi fourths. Okay. So we're passing in a radian value here. All right. So when we use this sine, cosine, that kind of thing, we're passing in radians. Okay. So let's run this, and we get 0.707. So if you know from trigonometry, the sine of pi fourths is the square root of 2, and the decimal approximation of the square root of 2 is 0.707, etc. Okay. Close that out. All right. We can also do square root. So we can do puts math dot sqrt and take the square root of a number. So we do 16. And now this should be 4, but again, pay attention. We get a float. So this is going to print 4.0. Remember, this is a float, okay? We can also do the logarithm of a number. So let's do puts math.log. We'll do 64 and 8 here. And if we run this, we're getting 2.0. Why are we getting 2.0? Well, we get 2.0 because 8 squared is 64. Okay, so this prints 2.0 because 8 squared equals 64. So I'm not going to teach you all about logarithms, but just know that that's the case. And remember, this is a float. Returns a float. Okay. All right. We can also do arc sine, arc cosine. So let's do arc cosine. Okay, so we're going to do puts math.acos. And now we're going to bring in pi. So we're going to do big math, pi to 2 decimal places, and do pi fourths. This is going to give us the arc cosine of pi halves. Okay, let's run this and see what happens. Ooh, look at that. Undefined method for big math. because what did we forget? We forgot to do .pi. Okay, so we got to do .pi. Now let's run it. And we get 0.6674, etc. Okay. Okay, I want to make a note. Let's try something else, and then I'm going to give you a note. So we'll do math.arccos, arc cosine, big math dot pi 2 over 2. I'm sorry, this is the arc cosine of pi fourths. My bad. Now we're going to do the arc cosine of pi halves, okay, and see what happens. Okay, so now we get this error. It says numerical argument is out of domain, okay? Well, that's because we are trying to divide 1, or we are trying 1 divided by 0, which, that gives us an issue. I'm not going to delve into trig too much, or at all, really. We're just going to move on, but if you know about trig, you understand why that is. If you really have a question about it, comment in the comments below. But you note that with some of these methods, you can get an out of domain error. Okay, so that was the math class. Now let's talk about something non-mathy. Let's do user input. Okay. So we're going to do new Ruby file here. I'm going to call this 008 underscore user underscore input. Okay. And oops, I want to get rid of that. There we go. And so we can take in user input with gets. So I might print something like, what is your name? And I'll put a question mark and a space here because I don't have a new line character. Okay, and then I would create some variable, your name, and set it equal to gets.chomp. Okay, and now what I can do is I can take in that and I can say puts your name is, and I can concatenate this on because this is a string, so I'm going to do your name plus, and we'll do a period. Okay, and let's try this out. So we'll run it. What is your name? I'm going to say Tim. And it says your name is Tim. So we've taken in user input, stored it in a variable, and then outputted it. Cool. Okay. All right, so we could continue with this. We could do multiple ones. We could print what is your job? And I could say your job equals gets.chomp. And then we could then print out, let's do, your job is, remember we're using prints, so we want to maybe include a new line character at the end for nice formatting. So we'll do that. And let's run this again. So what's your name? My name's Tim. What's your job? Let's do math teacher. And we say your job is math teacher. Okay. So that's user input in Ruby. Pretty cool. Next thing I want to talk about, see, I have this file, I called it birth year. Okay, so we can create a little formula. Let's create another file. We'll create a little program to figure out your birth year. So we'll create a Ruby file. I'm going to call this 009 underscore birth underscore year .rb. And let's close out the side here. And we're going to do something like, we're going to print a question, what is your age? Okay. And we'll say your age equals gets.chomp. Okay, this is going to take in a string. So to figure out your birth year, we'll create a variable, your underscore birth year, and take the current year, so 2022, and we'll subtract your age dot to I. Although it could be 2023 when you're watching this, or 2024, or 2025, or who knows. But anyways, so change it accordingly, and then we'll do puts. You were born in plus your birth year. Now we want to convert it back to a string, so to string, and then plus in a period. Now notice when I did to int before, I could do to int, or I can do to I. Pretty cool. So a little bit of difference there. So if we run this, let's run it. What is your age? So I'm going to say 46. You were born in 1976. So that's correct, but I've already had my birthday this year. So the one little issue with this program is, let's say I had my birthday, I'm filming this in November. Let's say I have my birthday in December. It would give me the wrong year. Not might, it would. So we might later on write some conditionals to improve this, or I could leave that to you. But just keep in mind, it's just a little demonstration program that I wanted to include at this point where we could start to figure things out. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is format specifiers. So we're going to create another file. And I'm going to call this file 010 underscore format underscore specifiers .rb. Okay. And I'm going to use some big math here too. So let's require. We'll do big decimal / math. You see my IDE gives me a nice suggestion there. And let's include big math. Okay. And I'm going to create a couple variables. So I'm going to say my name equals Tim. My occupation equals, I don't know, high school math teacher currently, although I've been a programmer as well. So I could put that in there as well. All right, and what I'm going to do is now I'm going to print. Now I'm going to use a format specifier to include this, so we've been using concatenation to this point, but we can use something called format specifiers, which if you're familiar with like C programming, you may have used format specifiers. So I'm going to say my name is, and we're going to do %s because we're going to pass a string in there. So that's the format specifier, %s. And my occupation is, we'll do %s. And because I'm using print, I'm going to use a new line character here. And then to get the correct variables in here, I'm going to have to do a percentage sign. And then within square brackets, I'm going to list out each of the variables. So my name, and then have a comma, my occupation. Okay. So now let's run this. Okay. And so we see my name is Tim and my occupation is high school math teacher. Okay. The grammar might need to be improved on that, but you get the point. Now, we just passed in strings. We can also do integers. So let's say my age is 46. And then we could do puts, my name is %s, and my age is %d, okay? So the %d is for the integer, and we'll do a % here, and we'll do my name, comma, my age, okay? And let's run this. And we see my name is Tim and my age is 46. So when we use the format specifier in this way, we're passing in an integer, but it will convert it to a string and allow us to print this out without any errors. Okay. We can also bring in a float. So we could do something like puts and do the value of pi to 5 decimal places is, and I'm going to show you this, show you something interesting. So I'm going to do a % and 0.5, 5F. So that's going to round a float to 5 decimal places. Now I'm going to do % here, and then I'm going to pass in big math dot pi, but to 10 decimal places. So I'm going to show you that this is going to only take it to 5 decimal places because of this 0.5f. Even though we specified a precision, you see my IDE is saying PREC for precision of 10 decimal places. So let's run this. And we get the value of pi to 5 decimal places is 3.14159. Cool. I only remember 3.14, even though I'm a math teacher. I don't know. People like to memorize it. I don't see any real point to it. But anyways, to each his own. Okay, so another way to format is we can use something similar to a format string that you use in Python. This is a nice one I like to use when I'm creating a worksheet. So let's do another put statement, and we'll do my name is, and then I'm going to do a hashtag and then 2 curly braces, and in between the curly braces I'm going to put the name of my variable, so my name, and then and I am, and we're going to do a hashtag and then my age, years old. And let's run this. And you get, my name is Tim. My name is Tim, and I am 46 years old. So with this way, I brought in an integer here. I don't need to, it's automatically converted to a string this way. So, and I like this method when I'm making a math worksheet. Using this particular method works well. But you could use any of these methods. Okay, so that was format specifiers. Let's see what I have next on the list. We're starting with arrays, and we have a whole series of number 11 files. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is create a new file, and I'm going to call this 011a underscore arrays .rb. Okay, and let's start talking about arrays. All right, so we're going to create an array with a list of names. So let's make a comment here that we are creating a list of names, which is an array of names. Okay, and to do that, we're going to create a names list, and I'm going to use this keyword array, and then within square brackets, I'm going to type the names in my array. So I'm going to do Tim, Sean, Sarah. Notice I'm putting these all in quotes because they're all strings, and putting commas after each one. Joe, Aaron, Matt, and Moses. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is just print it out. So I'm going to do puts, names, list, and actually I'm going to print out the type, .class. So let's run this, and we see we get the type array. So this is going to output array. Okay. Now if we want to print specific items in the array, so let's do that. So we're going to print specific items in the array. So I'm going to do puts and then the names list at index 0. This is going to print Tim, right? So let's confirm, because Tim is the first item in the array. It does output Tim, because Tim is at index 0. Okay, I'm also going to do, let's print out the last name on the list. So we'll do names list at index -1. It's going to print out the last item in the list. So it's going to print Moses. And that is the last item in the array. Okay. And let's go and run this and confirm. And we see we get Moses, the last item in the array. Okay, so we're also going to do a names list, and we're going to print out certain names in the list. So let's do puts, let's do names list, and let's do from index 1 through 4. Okay, and I'm going to show you what this prints out. And if we run it, we get each of the names, starting with Sean. So we get Sean, Sarah, Joe, and Aaron. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a little different than string slicing. So it actually prints out indices 1 through 4 on a separate line, each on a separate line. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to show you something a little funky with Ruby. So let's just print out like a separator here. Okay, that's just going to separate so it doesn't get confusing. And then I'm going to do puts names list. Let's go from 0 to 2. Okay, so from what I just said, we should print Tim, Sean, and Sarah. Let's see. And we get Tim and Sean. So that is something that's a little funky. It's a little funky thing with Ruby. We printed indices 0 and 1, but not 2. Interesting. Okay, and just to show you this in a little bit more detail, let's do puts names list 0 through 4. Okay, and if we do that, up here we get Tim, Sean, Sarah, Joe, but not Aaron. Aaron was at indice 4. So interesting. When I start with 0, it doesn't print out the last one. When I start with 1, it does. Very interesting. Okay. All right. We can also create an empty array with a size of 20. To do that, let's create an array. We'll say my array 1. I just numbered it that way. I don't know why. Array equals new, and we'll create 20. And this is another way to create an array. If I do puts my array 1 dot class, I'm still going to get array right at the end there. So after Joe, we get array. Okay. So this outputs array. Cool. All right, let's go back here. And this file is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to create an 11b with more arrays. So I'm going to go here, create a new Ruby file. I'm going to call this 011b underscore arrays dot rb. Close out the side here. And I'm going to create a names list, set that equal to Tim, Sean, Sarah, Aaron, and Joe, and let's say Ben. Okay, and now I'm just going to do puts and the names list. And again, this is going to print out, well, I'll show you. Prints out each item in the names list on a separate line. So Tim, Sean, Sarah, Aaron, Joe, Ben. Okay. Now, if I want to get a specific index, so index 3, let's do puts names list 3. Actually, if I want to, hold on, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to say to index 3, I want the name to be John. Now let's run this. And we see we get John there. And let's do a separator here. And then we'll talk about what happened. And so now I'm going to print the names list again. And if I run this, okay, so in the separator, I don't know if you can see it, it's right there. And then we start with Tim, Sean, Sarah, and now we have John in here. Okay, Aaron went away. We have Joe and Ben. So we've changed index 3, or 0, 1, 2, 3. We changed index 3 from Aaron to John. Okay, so we can do that. Let's do another little separator. Yeah, we'll do it plus signs here. And now let's print the names list. I want to just show you a little difference. And I'm going to print a new line character here, just for formatting. Okay, so after the separator, notice the difference between puts and print. So this is another difference I wanted to show you between those two. Puts takes each separate item of the array and prints it on a separate line. Print just prints out the entire array. Okay, and that new line character just was for formatting, so we get the new line character here, just so it doesn't, isn't all cobbled together. Okay, so that was that file. I want to talk now, continuing with arrays, we're going to create another file. And I'm going to call this file let's call it 011C underscore arrays .rb. All right. Now I'm going to talk about another way to create an array. So another way to create an array. And I can just say my underscore first ARR equals array.new. Now notice I didn't specify the length or anything. I'm just creating a new array. But let's figure out what the length of this technical array is. So let's do puts my first array, and we can use the length method dot length here. And let's see what that outputs. And we notice that it's an array, but it's length 0. Okay. Now I can create another array. I can do my underscore second ARR for my second array equals array.new, and we'll do a length of 12. Now let's do puts my second array dot length. Okay, we'll run this, and we get 12. Okay. Now I'm going to do something really interesting here. I'm going to do create another variable, my third ARR for my third array, and we'll say array.new. I'll give it 10, but then I'm going to give it this other argument of Tim. I'll show you why I'm doing that in a second. And now we're going to do puts my third array dot length. We'll run that. We'll see it's 10. Okay. But now let's print out each item in the array, and I'm going to do a print. So I'm going to do print my third array, and I'm going to do a new line afterwards, just like that. And now let's run this. And notice we get an array of length 10, all with items of Tim. So that's something you can do as well. Okay. And now we're going to get a little fancy here. So we're going to go here, And we're going to create an odds array. Odds array. I'm going to say array.new, and I'm going to give it a length of 10, and I'm going to give a space here, and then curly braces, and I'm going to say we're going to have this variable for each item in the array. X equals x times 2 plus 1. Okay. Now, what is this doing? Okay, let's make a comment here. This is starting at 1 and incrementing by 2. Okay, it's a little bit odd. Looks like we're multiplying by 2 and adding 1, but we're starting at 1 and incrementing by 2. So I'm going to print the odds array here and print a new line character. I'll show you what we get. All right, so we get this odds array: 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19. It's an array of length 10 of all odd numbers. Okay, and this is the syntax we use to get it. It's a little odd looking, right? So you start at 1. That's where the plus 1 comes, and you increment each value by 2. Okay. Okay, and one other thing, I'm just going to add it in here that I wanted to show you, is a way to print the array on one line with puts. I just kind of threw it in here at the end. I'm going to do puts, and I'm going to use this hashtag and curly braces, and then do the odds array. Okay, so we're passing in the variable into a string, and you'll see here that prints out the entire array as well. Okay, so that's one cool little thing I wanted to add on there. Okay, so now we're up to another array file. I'm going to call this 11D. Okay, this is going to be the last array file. So let's create a new array file. I'm going to call this 011D underscore arrays.rb. Okay, and let's create another names list. So let's do a names list, and we'll do Tim, Sean, Sarah, Joe, Aaron, Matt, Moses, and Ben. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if the array includes a certain item. So to do that in Ruby, we can do, and I'm going to print it. So I'm going to do puts names list dot include with a question mark there. And then, so it's kind of English, does it include John? Okay, and this, let's run it, see what we get. And we get false. Okay, so this will print false. Now, if I do puts names list dot include, we do Tim, this will output true. Let's just confirm that by running it. And so we get true. Okay, so that's if it includes. We can also sort the array. So let's do a puts, and we'll print this out on one line. We'll do a hashtag, and we're going to pass in the names list and do the sort method here. And let's run this. And we notice we get the names sorted in alphabetical order, which is pretty cool. Okay. Now let's create an other array. So I'm going to say other underscore ARR for other array. You can name it whatever you want. A equals the items A. Let's do 23. Let's do B. Let's do 7. Let's do A. Let's do an exclamation point. And now let's try and do this sorting again. So we'll do puts, and we'll do other array.sort, and see what happens. And notice this is giving us an error. So comparison of integer and string failed. So we get an argument error. So this gives us an argument error. Comparison of integer and string failed. Okay. I'm going to comment this entire line out here, but just leave that for the notes. All right, let's do another array. We're going to try and sort this one, and I'm going to show you an interesting result. So I'm going to do third array equals A, uppercase A, uppercase B, lowercase b, lowercase c, uppercase c. And now these are all strings, so we'll do puts, and then we'll do third array dot sort, and let's take a look. What do we get? So notice we get ABC, the capital letters first, followed by the lowercase letters. Okay, and this has to do with sorting. It basically sorts it according to ASCII values, which is important if you're programming for like keyboard entry. So capitals are first because they have lower ASCII values than lowercase letters. Okay, and we can figure out what the ASCII value is. So I'm going to do my character equals A, uppercase A, and I'm going to do my other character equals lowercase a. And let's figure out the ASCII values of these. So we're going to convert the characters to ASCII values. And we do that with .ord. So I'm going to print this out. So I'm going to say puts my character .ord, and I'm also going to do puts my other character .ord, and let's print this or run it. We get 65, which is the ASCII value of A. So this has an ASCII value of 65. And then the other one, the lowercase a, has an ASCII value of 97. So it has an ASCII value of 97. Okay, so yeah, that's a way you can figure out ASCII values of specific characters. And when you're sorting arrays, you can't mix integers and strings. It's not going to work well when sorting. You can have them in an array, but to sort them, it's not going to work well. And remember, it sorts by ASCII value when you're dealing with strings. At this point, I think I'm going to end part 1 of this mega tutorial on Ruby and take a little break. Remember, if you like this video, please like and share it, as it really helps get it out there. Also, consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help the channel grow. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hi, Timothy Unkert here. In part 2 of this mega Ruby tutorial, we'll start talking about hashes. So I'm going to create a file over here, and I made the font really large for you so you can see it. Create a new file. We're going to call it, this is a Ruby file. We're going to call this one 0. So 012a underscore hashes. Remember, if you're not using an IDE that adds the .rb extension, you want the .rb at the end. And let me just close out the side here now. All right, so we've got our file. And we're going to create a hash. And for a hash, you do want unique keys. Okay, so let's make a comment here. You want unique keys. Okay, and let's create a hash. We'll call it myself. And I'm going to say myself equals, and then I'm going to use these curly braces like so. And then I'm going to put the key value pairs. So let's have a key of name, and then to indicate the value that goes along with the key name, we're going to do this fat arrow. So you do equal sign and then the greater than sign right together like that. And then we want to put the value. So the value of my name is Timothy Unkert, right? After this first key value pair, to have another one, we want to have a comma, okay? And then let's put another key value pair. So I'm going to do another one, we'll call the key age, do my fat arrow, and we'll set it equal to 46. And because I'm using this value as an integer, I don't have to put it in quotes. And I'll put a comma after that one. And then I'll do one more key value pair. And I'll call this one, this key website. And we'll do our fat arrow. And we'll do the website value in quotes as a string is https://unkertmedia.com. You should check out that site, unkertmedia.com. It's pretty cool. After our last key value pair in the hash, we don't have to put a comma here, so I don't need a comma here. So I'm not going to put one. All right. So I'm going to go down here, and now I'm going to use puts to just print out the hash. So let's do puts and then myself. Okay. And let's run this and see what we get. Okay. And let me move this up a little bit so you can see it. So we've got, it just prints out the hash, which is like a dictionary in Python if you're familiar with that. Okay, so we've got each of the key value pairs listed. Okay, cool. We can also print out just one key. So I could do puts myself and then within square brackets do the key age. And let's see what we get when we do that. So let's run this. Okay. So if we run this, we just get the value of the key age. So the value is an integer. It's 46. Okay. All right. You can also loop through the key value pairs. And this is kind of like, if you're familiar with Python, you can do something similar. So this is more of a Python type loop in Ruby. And I'm just going to make a comment of that. And then let's do it. So we're going to say something like for kv, you could call it key value, in myself, but a lot of times you'll see kv, especially in Python, do. And then we're going to print something. So we'll puts the key, so puts k plus, and we'll concatenate on a colon here and a space, and then we'll do another plus, and we'll concatenate the value, and we'll make sure it's a string because I do have an integer, so I'm going to go 2s, okay? So let's try this, okay? And let's run it. And you'll see here, we get it printed out. We get name, Timothy Unkert, age 46, and my website, unkertmedia.com. Cool. All right. We can also create a hash in a little bit different of a way. So let me show you that. And let's scroll up. And so I'll have myself underscore hash equals, and then for each of the keys here, we're not going to put them in quotes. We're going to do a colon and then the key name. So colon name, and then the fat arrow, and then I'll do Timothy Unkert because that's the value, and put a comma after that. Then colon age, or fat arrow, put the value of 46, and then colon website, the fat arrow, and put the value of https / unkertmedia.com. If you just type unkertmedia.com, it goes to that website. Check it out, please. Shameless plug. All right. So now what we could do is we could access the key. Let's say I wanted to access the value of the key website. and print it out, I could do puts myself underscore hash, then square brackets, and then colon website. Okay. And now let's run this. And we see we get the value of the key website, so unkertmedia.com. Okay. All right. We can also do a hash that has numbers for the keys. Okay. So let's try that. So let's call this key num, or key underscore num underscore hash. Not great with the naming, but anyways, and then we'll do our curly braces and we'll just do a number for the key. So I'll do 1, our fat arrow, and then a value of wow. And then 2, our fat arrow, and a value of cool. And then 3, and our fat arrow, and a value of, well, it's just okay. And now we can print out the value of a key by using the number. So let's do that. So we'll do puts, and we'll do key num hash, then within square brackets, let's do 1. So we're going to print out wow. And let's run it. And we get wow right down here. Pretty cool. Okay. All right. I also want to do another file because this one's getting a little bit long, and we'll talk a little bit about hashes in that file. All right. So I'm going to open up the side here, go up here. We'll create a new file. It's going to be a Ruby file. We'll call this 012b underscore hashes dot rb. Okay. My IDE is going to add it for me, and then we'll get rid of the sidebar here. And we can also create a hash. Let's say I wanted to create a hash and store it in the variable my underscore hash. I can use hash in uppercase and do dot new. Okay. And now if I print this out, let's do puts my hash. Let's see what we get. Okay. So we just get these 2 empty curly braces. So we have an empty hash. Okay. So that's one way we can do it. We can also let's create another hash. Let's call it my second hash. And we'll do hash dot new and a space and do Tim. Okay. And let's now print out the value at 0. And here's another way we can print it out. We'll do puts, and in quotes, we'll do hashtag and then these curly braces to pass in a variable. We'll do my second, should be hash. Let me rename this. I mean, I could name it has, but just because we're talking about hashes, I'm going to name it hash. All right. And then at index 0, or at key 0, the default value, and we get Tim. Okay. So that's basically, I'm saying what's the default value here. Okay. Because we don't necessarily have, it's not like where you have an array, for instance. Okay, so let's now talk about my second hash, and let's keep going. But we'll do puts my second hash. We'll just print it out and see what we get here. Okay, so we print that out. We get an empty hash, right? So this 0 gives me the default value, but it's not like, again, it's not like an array, an index 0. It's just the default value it's giving me. The hash is actually empty, but the default value would be Tim. Okay. Okay. Now we can actually create key value pairs by doing something like this. So I can do my second hash, and let's say I want to create a key called greeting, and I can do that in square brackets, and I can just say equals hi. Okay. By the same notion, I can do my second hash, and let's say I want to create a key called name. I can set it equal to Tim. Okay. Remember, when we printed this out here, it was an empty hash. Now let's print it out. Let's do puts my second hash here, and let's run that and see what we get. Okay, so now we've got these two key value pairs. So we've got greeting equals hi, name is Tim. All right, pretty cool. So we can create key value pairs that way. Now we can also clear out the hash. We could do my second hash dot clear, and then we could print out, do puts my second hash. Okay, so if we run this, let's see what we get. And now we've got an empty hash again, okay? And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to comment this out because I don't really want to clear out the hash, but I do want to show you a better way to iterate through a hash. So let's make a comment here that this is a better iteration. And then what I showed you in the previous file. And I'm going to say my second hash dot each, okay? And then within curly braces, and then within pipes here, so we'll do key value, right? And then we'll do puts. Then let's do some quotes here. I'm going to do a hashtag to pass in the variable key, and then a colon, and then a hashtag and pass in the variable value, like so. Okay, so now let's run this, okay? And so I'm going to run this, and now we get each one on a separate line. We get greeting, colon hi, name, colon Tim, okay? And that's what this iteration does. I hope you enjoyed this video on hashes in Ruby. If you did, could you please give it a like, as it will help get out to more people. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hi, Timothy Unkert from Unkert Media here. In this video, I want to talk about methods in Ruby. So we're continuing with the Ruby mega tutorial here. And what I'm going to do is create another file. And we're at, I think, number 13. I'm going to create a Ruby file. I'll do 13A, let's call this, and underscore methods.rb. And let's get started, okay? All right, so methods are sometimes also referred to as functions. So let's make a note of that. Okay, they accept parameters and you pass in arguments. Okay, so that's some of the terminology you may hear with methods. And like in Python, to define a function, define a method, we use the keyword def for define, and then we give the method name. So I'm going to create a function here that, or a method that squares a number, okay? So I'm going to call this function name square, and then in parentheses, I'm going to take in a parameter, which will pass in as an argument when we call the function. And I'm going to call this parameter num, okay? We don't need a colon like we do in Python after here. In fact, that'll give you an error. We're going to hit enter, and my IDE is going to put this keyword end here. So you start the function, you have your parameters. You don't have to have any parameters coming in here. You could just have empty parentheses, and then you have the end keyword where it ends the function. Now, Ruby's interesting in that in Ruby, you don't need to use the keyword return, okay? So the last line of a method, if you haven't used the keyword return, is the return. So all I want to do when I square a number is just multiply it by itself. So I'm just going to do num times num here. And it's going to return, it's actually returning num times num. Okay, so that's our function. That's it. And let's call our method. let's call our method. Okay, so to call our method, we could do just the name of the method, and then we pass in some argument. So let's pass in the argument 3. And if I run this, well, nothing's going to output. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so you see the program finished with exit code 0, meaning there were no errors, but nothing actually came out. Okay, the reason being is we're returning basically 9. The square of 3 is 9, but we're not printing it or anything. So let's actually go ahead and print it. So we'll do puts, and now let's run our program. And now you see we get 3 times 3, which is 9, square of 3. Okay, very good. All right, let's create another function, and I want to show you how you can use the keyword return and how if you put something after that, it's not going to do anything. So let's create a method. We'll call it exponent, and we'll take in a base, and we'll take in a power. So we have 2 parameters. And we're going to just return the base, and we're going to use this double asterisk as an exponentiation operator, and we're going to raise it to the power, right? Now, you can see my IDE is highlighting return, and if I go here and I click on the errors, it says redundant return keyword. So I really only need to write base double asterisk power, and that's going to return it. But I want to demonstrate something here. So if I tried to print something after this, so do puts, and I'll do puts, this line does nothing, okay? And now if you hover over it, you'll see this warning come up, unreachable code, because it's already returned out of the method here. So this is unreachable code. So if you put anything after the keyword return, then nothing is going to happen. Okay, so let's call this method as is. So we'll and we'll print it. We'll do puts exponent, and we'll do 2 to the 3rd power. So we should get 8. Okay, and if we run it, we get 8. Okay. Now, if I get rid of this keyword return, let's see what happens. Okay, so now we've got a check mark, no warning. Let's run. And we're going to get something. We're going to get just this line does nothing, but we're not printing this. So we're only printing out this. Okay, the last line is what we're returning. Let's just get rid of that last line. Now let's run without the keyword return, and we get 8, which is 2 to the 3rd power. Okay. All right. We could also return strings. So we've been doing some numbers here. So let's create a greeting function. So I'm going to say def, give it the name greeting, if I can spell correctly. We'll take in name as a parameter, and we'll concatenate a string. So we'll say hello, comma, space, plus name, plus, and then just do a period. And again, we do not need a return statement. So I'm going to make a comment. We do not need the return statement. Okay. And now I can do puts greeting, and let's pass in a name. So we'll pass in Tim. Okay, let's now run this and see what we get. Okay, so we get hello, Tim. Pretty cool. Pretty sweet. All right. Yeah. Okay, and let's now do a different function. And this time, I'm not even going to have any parameters. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to create a function. I'm going to name it as print_hello. want to use snake case for functions, so a lowercase with underscores. And we're just going to do puts hello. Okay. Now, and let's say hello. This is from print underscore hello. Okay. And now down here, I can call the function. I don't need the puts because it's doing it within the function. Okay. So I can do print hello. Okay. So let's now run this. And you can see hello. This is from print hello. Now I want to point something out here. Notice that this is not having parentheses. So I could do something like this. And then we're getting like a light warning here. And the light warning is method definition without parameters has parentheses. Let's just do this and without anything. And now we're getting a warning here. What is it saying? No argument call has parentheses. Let's try and run it. See what happens. And it still runs, okay? But basically, this is telling me I don't need these, okay? So I don't need these, so I'm going to get rid of them. In Python, you still need the parentheses afterwards, even if you don't have a parameter and you're not passing them in any arguments. So that's a difference with Ruby. So a couple differences here. So one, you don't need the return keyword. Talking too fast. You do not need the return keyword. And if you're not having any parameters for your function, you don't need parentheses. Okay. Let's create another file here. And I want to call this one default parameters. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to do a new file. Ruby file, and it's going to be 013b underscore default underscore parameters dot rb. Okay, get rid of the side here, and let's create a function. So we'll say def, or a method, occupation. So it's going to be a method that tells your occupation. And we're going to create a default parameter. So I'm going to say job equals programmer. And we'll hit end here. And all it's going to do is return a string. So it's going to say you work as a space, because we're concatenating here, plus job. So just the space for formatting. And we'll do a period. Okay. And now let's print and then print the return of the method. So let's do puts occupation. And we're not going to pass anything in. Okay. So let's run this. Okay. So it says you work as a programmer. Okay. So you'll see that even though we did not pass in an argument, it's taking this default parameter job, which is set to programmer. Now I can override this by passing in an argument. So I could do puts occupation and then pass in parameter math teacher. Okay, so now let's run it. And you see that the second line here says you work as a math teacher. Okay, so let me see here. And I think at this point, I'm going to end the video here. This is a basic introduction to methods. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, could you please give it a like, as it will help get out to more people. Also, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so. It really does help the channel grow. And finally, check out unckertmedia.com if you haven't done so already. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hi YouTube, Timothy Unkert from unckertmedia.com here. In this video, I want to talk about conditionals and logical operators in Ruby. So let's get started. I'm going to create a file and I'm going to call it 014a underscore conditionals .rb for a Ruby file. Okay. And let me close out the sidebar here. And let's get started. So first off, I want to talk about the basic structure of a if statement in Ruby. So we're going to have if, keyword if, and then some condition. Okay, so it's some condition, not in parentheses really. So we don't need the parentheses. So let's just say some condition, and then we have an end statement, and then we have the code that runs if the if statement is true. Okay? Or if the conditional is true. that's what I should be saying. Let me just get rid of that. But if the conditional. Don't know why I put that in quotes, but or if the condition. Anyways, so let's actually see this in action. So I'm going to make a condition that is most definitely true. So let's say 9, and we'll do a double equals. And this is, a comparison operator. So it's saying, is 9 equal to 9? Well, yes, of course it is. And so we're going to run some code. Obviously, 9 is equal to 9. So we'll just print out, thank you, Captain Obvious. Okay. And now I'm going to run the code. I'm going to show you how to run it in a terminal because my IDE is being a little goofy and shutting down on me when I try and run it. Might be because of the recording. Anyway, so to run this in the terminal, I'm going to do Ruby and then the name of the file, which is 014a. I'm going to start to type it and hit a tab to autocomplete it. Yes, I got it. I don't need that. And then I'm just going to hit enter. And you'll see here it prints out, thank you, Captain Obvious. Okay. All right. So that's an if statement. We also have a basic structure of an if-else statement. So basic structure of an if-else statement. Okay. So I could do something like if true, and then I'll also have an else. Now, obviously, the if true conditional is going to run. So we'll just do a printout. We'll say this is true, and we'll do something here. We'll do puts. This is false. Okay. And I'll run this via the terminal. I can just hit the up arrow to get my previous command that I ran in the terminal. And we see, thank you, Captain Obvious, and then this is true. Okay. Let's move this up a little bit. Okay. All right. So that's an if-else statement. We can also create a variable and use this. So let's have a variable. We'll call it isProgrammer, and we'll set that equal to true. So this is a Boolean with the value true. Okay. And we do iffy. That's a shortcut. I'm actually using IntelliJ right now, but if you use RubyMine or IntelliJ with the Ruby plugin, you can do IFE and hit tab, and it gives you the if-else end basic code layout. So that's a nice little shortcut. I thought I'd show it to you. All right, so I'm going to say is programmer. So if this is true, then the if statement will run, and we'll print out you are a programmer. If it's not true, we'll print out you are not a programmer. Okay. So let's run this again. And we see you are a programmer. Cool. All right. Okay. So that's an if-else conditional. Let's create a few other conditions here. Let's create is math teacher, and we'll set that equal to true. And we'll also do is no job. We'll set that equal to false. Okay. So I do have a job. So I'm going to say if is programmer. Now let me show you something. So I'm going to do this shortcut here, but I'm also going to add, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to type an else if. So I'm going to do else if, okay? And I'll do another else if. And notice we're skipping the E here, okay? We're getting some warnings because we've got to fill some stuff in. So if is programmer is true, then it's going to just run this code and it's going to skip everything else. Remember, is programmer is true. So we'll say you are a programmer. And then we'll do else if is math teacher. And we're going to do, remember that's true as well. You are a math teacher, okay? And then we'll do an else if is no job. And then we'll do something like you have no job. Okay, and then we'll do another print statement here. We'll say we are not sure of your employment status. Let me spell that right. Employment status. Okay. All right, so let's run this. Now, because this is true, just see what happens when I run it. So I'm going to open up the terminal. We'll rerun it again. And we see you are a programmer is our last line. We don't get you are a math teacher because even though is math teacher equals true, excuse me, because the is programmer is true, it only runs this code and it skips all the rest, okay? So what I could do is, because is programmer is true, I could put this in front. This is a not operator. So if this is not true, then this will run. So it actually should print out you are a math teacher now. So let's open up the terminal. Let's rerun, and we see the last line, you are a math teacher. We're getting you are a programmer from this other conditional up here, if is programmer, okay? So that's a little bit about conditionals. Now let's talk about logical operators. Okay, so I'm going to create another file, and this file I'm going to call 015. I don't know why I went with the A. I thought I'd have a little bit more with conditionals, but I didn't. So we're just going to jump to 015 because I'm following along with my repo on GitHub. You can check that out. I'll leave a link in the description, maybe, if I remember. Probably not, actually. Anyway, so 15 logical operators.rb, and now let's close out the sidebar here. And so we'll create some Booleans up top. So let's declare and initialize some Booleans. Okay, so we'll see here is underscore programmer equals true, is math teacher also equals true, is, let's put jobless equals false. Okay, so now let's use and. Okay, so we're going to create a conditional, but it's only true if two things are true. So we'll say if is programmer and is math teacher, then we'll do something. We'll print out you are a programmer and a math teacher. Okay. We'll also have an else if, and we'll say else if is math teacher and is jobless. Well, then we'll print something out. We'll do you are a math teacher, but you have no job. You could be an unemployed math teacher, I suppose. All right, and then we'll also have another else if, and this time, spelled it wrong there, else if is programmer and is jobless. We'll do a puts, you are an unemployed math teacher, or no, unemployed programmer, which unfortunately in this economy could be true. And then, yeah, and we'll not do an else, okay? We don't need to have an else in there. So let's run this and see if you can figure out which code is going to run. Will this code run first? Will this code run? Or will this code run? Okay, so let's do Control-T as my shortcut for the terminal. You don't really need to know that, but figured I'd share. We'll run the command again. And we see here, it prints out, whoops, we ran the previous file. Okay, so I need to do this file. So I'm going to do Ruby 015 because I just hit the up key. Hit tab to autocomplete it. And we get you are a programmer and a math teacher. Okay, so the top code here ran. All right. Now, we can do this. Let's do, if the is programmer is false and is math teacher is true, then this will run. Else if is math teacher and is jobless, this will run. And then this will run if your is programmer and is jobless. Okay, so let's go ahead. Now I can hit the up arrow. And we'll see it runs, but nothing prints out. Well, why is that? Well, because is jobless is false. So is math teacher is true. And is jobless, well, this is not true. So this whole thing is not true. So we don't get this. Likewise, is programmer, well, that's true, but combining it with is jobless, that's false. So it makes the whole thing false. So nothing prints out. So now I'm going to change this to or, okay? And let's see what happens now, which prints out. Okay, so up arrow to run the previous command. You are a math teacher, but have no job, okay? So this bit of code ran because is math teacher is true, is jobless is false. So it's if either one of these is true, it will run. Now, if I combine this to and this down here to or, let's see if you can figure out what will run, okay? So we're going to do Control-T and then do the up arrow. And we see you are an unemployed programmer, okay? So the last bit of code ran because is programmer is true, right up here. Is jobless is false, but since is programmer is true and we have this or statement, this runs, okay? Let's also talk about the not logical operator. So we can say something like if, and we can type the word not is jobless, then we'll print out you have a job. Okay. Now notice my IDE is giving me a hint here. If I hover over this, it says negative condition and control flow statements. It doesn't like that, but we can run it nonetheless. Will it print out you have a job? Let's see. Let's open up the terminal. And we're looking for the last line to run here. Even though it says you're an unemployed programmer up here, it does run you have a job. Okay. So this is saying if not true. So another way to think about it is if false, and is jobless is false, remember, we go up here, false, then this line of code runs, okay? Likewise, we could do it another way. We could do it with the exclamation point and then do is jobless and then puts you definitely have a job. Just make it different. Okay, and so now we can run this again and we see you definitely have a job down here. Okay, so that's another way of doing it. If we hover over this, we also get the negative condition in control flow statement. My IDE is giving me a hint. Let's do Alt-Shift-Enter here to do the bit of code. Unless is jobless. Okay, so that's another way we can do it. So we can also do this unless this is true. Do this. Okay, so let's try it this time. All right, so we'll clear this out and rerun, and we see that that works as well. You definitely have a job. Okay, so we can use this unless keyword as well. That's pretty much it for what I wanted to cover in this video. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, could you please give it a like, as it will help get out to more people? And also consider subscribing to the channel, as it really does help the channel grow. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hi, Timothy Unkert from unkertmedia.com here. In this video, I'm going to talk about a few different things in Ruby. So I'm going to start by talking about star args, and we'll create a fun little function with that. And then I'll talk about the date module, and then I'm going to talk about case statements, which are a way of changing the control flow of a program. So first, let's start with star args. So I'm going to create a file, and in my mega tutorial, which I'm going to all compile this into or put it into, I'm going to be up to file 16. So it's going to be 016, and then we'll call this star args. And remember, you have to add the .rb. My IDE is doing that for me. Okay, so all right, so we've got that there, and then let's close out the side here, and let's create a program. So you use star args for a method in Ruby. So let's define a method, and I thought a cool method would be to create a method. Let's make a comment. We'll create a method that finds the minimum value passed into it. Okay, so we're going to create a method that finds the minimum value passed into it. So let's define our method with def. We'll call this find_min. Remember, we're using snake case, and we're going to use the star args. And what this allows us to do, and let me make a comment. This allows me to pass in any amount of arguments. Okay. All right, and notice my IDE created this n keyword here, so that's important. All right, so we're going to start off this function, and basically what we're passing in here is an array. So we want to set the first number in the array to the minimum number. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable called min_num, and I'm going to set that to the args at index 0. So that's the first item in the array that is passed in. Now I'm going to use Ruby's way of iterating through each item in the array. So I'm going to type args.each, okay? And then I'll say do, then we'll do these pipes here, do number, and then notice I have an end to my iterable loop. And what I'll say is if number is less than the minimum number, then we'll say the minimum number equals the number. Okay, so what is this saying? Well, we're going to go through each element in the array that's passed into this function, which we can pass any number of arguments in. And we're going to look, and for each number in that array, we're going to compare it with the minimum number. If that number in the array is less than the minimum number, so less than the first item in the array, then the minimum number is going to become this new number. And we're going to keep comparing it as we go through. And then at the end of this method, we're going to return the minimum number. And all we have to do is just type min_num. Remember, we don't need the return keyword in Ruby, which is pretty cool. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do puts, and I can do this in parentheses. And I'm going to call the function findMin, and then I'm going to pass in a certain amount of arguments. So I'm going to do 1, let's do 5, let's do -3, let's do 6, let's do 8, and let's do 0. And we want to see if this finds the minimum number, okay? So I'm going to open up my terminal, and I'm going to run this program. I'm going to type Ruby, and then 016, and then hit tab to autocomplete it, and hit enter. And we see we get -3, which is the minimum number in the array that I passed in. Now, if I were to go up here and add some more numbers, maybe -10, maybe 121, maybe 3, 4, 4, and 5, we can go ahead and run it. And this time it should say -10. And it does. -10 right here. Pretty cool. Okay, so that's star args. I'm going to switch pace here a little bit. This is kind of like a filler video for some random stuff that I want to cover in Ruby. And we're going to go to the date module here. Okay, so I'm going to open up my side viewer here, my side file, whatever. And I'm going to create a new Ruby file. Let's see, what am I calling this one? 017 underscore date.rb. Remember, my IDE is adding that for me. And we're going to talk about the date module. So this is basically, we're bringing in some predefined code and we're using it for our program. So to do that, we're going to do this keyword require. And then in single quotes, I can type what I want to bring in, which is date. Okay. And now we can use some user input to create our program. So let's do puts, and we'll ask a question. What month is your birthday? Is your birthday? And we'll do numbers 1 through 12. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll take in the input in a variable called birthday underscore month, and we'll set that equal to gets.chomp. So this is how we take in information, and we're going to convert it to an integer. So I'm going to append this dot or 2i to convert that to an integer. Okay. Let's also ask what day is the birthday. So what day is your birthday? And we'll do 1 to 31, depending on the month. But and then we'll do birth. We'll have this variable birthday day equals gets.chomp 2i. Okay, we're going to convert that to an integer as well. And we'll also ask, what age are you? And we'll do a variable called age equals gets.chomp. Now, so far we haven't used the date module, but we're working toward it. 2i. Okay, so we required the date, and then we asked the user for a bunch of questions and stored that user input in 3 different variables. Now we're going to use this date module. We're going to create a few variables. First one's going to be current month, and we're going to set that to, current month, and we'll set that to date.today.month. Okay. We'll also do current underscore day, and we'll set that to date.today.day. We're going to make sure this is an integer, so 2i. Okay. And we'll also do current year, which is date.today.year, and then make sure it's an integer, 2i. Okay. Let's just, for testing, let's just output the current month. So let's do puts, current month, and also let's do puts, current day. Okay. And I'll open up my terminal here, and let's do Ruby and 017 and hit tab, and that auto completes it. We'll run it. What month is your birthday? Let's say in March, so we'll do 3. What day is your birthday? Let's say the 20th, so we'll do 20. What age are you? Let's say 12. Okay. So it takes in the user input, but then you'll see I'm filming this in November, and it's the 21st of November. I'm not going to post this video on the 21st, but I'm filming this on the 21st of November. As you can see right here, November 21st. I don't know if you can see that, but it's in the corner there. All right. Okay, cool. I'm going to now comment this stuff out. And with my ID, I can just highlight it and do a control / and that comments both of those out. So those won't print out, but we know those values, what they are. And so now we're going to create a program to basically tell what year you were born in based off of your information you enter in. So what we'll start with is we'll say if birthday underscore month is less than current underscore month, because we have to take account of that. We're going to say the year born, so we'll create a year born variable, equals the current year minus the age, okay? But we'll also do an else if here. So else if birthday month, if that equals the current month, then we have to take a look at a few different things. So what we'll look at here is we'll look at if the birthday day is less than or equal to the current day, well, then the year born is going to equal the current year minus your age. Otherwise, so if it's greater than, the year born is going to equal the current year minus your age minus 1, okay? So if your birthday is after the 21st, then we're going to have to take in or subtract a 1 from there. Okay, so this is this else if statement. I'm also going to do an else statement here, because remember we said birthday month equals current month, or it's less than the current month. So else is the birthday month is greater than the current month. Then we'll just say that the year born equals the current year minus your age minus 1, just like if your birthday is greater than the current day, okay? So you haven't had your, basically what that is doing is it's comparing your birthday in the current year, if it's happened or not. That's going to affect the year that you're born, okay? Take a moment. You can look over the stuff in the repo or look over this video, rewatch it again if that does not make sense. So at the end, what we're going to do is we're going to do a puts, and we're going to say you were born in, do a space, and then we'll concatenate the year born, because that's going to be an integer. We're going to convert it to a string, so we'll do 2s, okay? All right, and we look like we're good to go, so let's do, open up the terminal, and let's run the program, and we'll say, what month is your birthday? So let's go with 3/20. What age are you? 12. So you were born in 2010, okay? Because you already had your birthday this year. It's 2022. You're 12. So that makes sense. Now let's run this again. Let's make up another date. What month is your birthday? Let's do the 11th month. So this month. What day is your birthday? Let's do the 22nd. So tomorrow. And what age are you? So the day you're doing this, you'll be, let's say you're 13, you turn 14 tomorrow. So we'll do 13, and it says you were born in 2008 because tomorrow you'll be 14, so 2022 minus 14 would be 2008, right? Okay, I hope that makes sense with that. And for this video, I want to include one more thing, and that's the case statements. So let's talk about case statements. All right, so what I'm going to do is create another file, and we'll call this Ruby file, we'll call it 018 underscore case.rb. And we have a case expression, which is, it's sort of like a switch case with other languages. Why is that not highlighting? Okay, there we go. Make a note, there's no fall through, so we don't need to add break. So that's a nice thing that Ruby adds, that we don't need to add that break. So let's say we have a variable, we'll call it x, and we'll set it equal to 22. We'll set up a case, we'll say case x, and then we're going to use this keyword when. So we'll use when, we'll do 1 to 10. When it's between 1 and 10, we'll print out x is between 1 and 10, and that's including 1 and 10. Okay, we'll do another when keyword, and we'll say when 11. And in this case, we'll do a puts, x is 11. Let's do another case when x is between 12 and 15, including those. We'll print out x is between 12 and 15, including 12 and 15. And we'll do another when x is 16, we'll print out x is 16. Okay, and then we're going to end this with an else. This is like default in other switch case statements. And what we'll do here is we'll just do a put statement. I don't know what number x is. Okay, now because I said it was 22, it's going to go ahead and do the default. So let's do a Control T to open the terminal. That's my shortcut I have. And then I want to run Ruby 018. I'll hit tab to autocomplete that. And you see it says, I don't know what number x is. Now let's change x a bit. Let's say x is 5. So we should get now x is between 1 and 10. Let's open the terminal back up, rerun, and we get x is between 1 and 10. Let's make sure of that. Let's say x is 10. And we'll rerun it, and we see x is between 1 and 10, and that includes 1 and 10. So we can keep changing this. Let's do 13, one more test. So we'll run it when x is 13. We see x is between 12 and 15. Okay? All right, so hopefully this gives you some insight into using case and when to use it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, as it will help get out to more people. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye. Hi, Timothy Unger here. In this video, I'd like to talk about loops in Ruby. Okay, so let's get started. This is part of my Ruby mega tutorial, and I'm going to create a file, and we're up to 19. So I'm going to create a new Ruby file, and I'm going to call it 019a _for _loop. And we'll start talking about for loops. Remember the .rb extension. My IDE automatically adds that, but you need to add that. Okay. All right. So let's create an array of numbers. So we're going to be talking about for loops, and I'm going to declare and initialize an array of numbers. And I'm going to store it in a variable called my_nums. And let's see, I'm just going to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do 3, 9, and 18. All right. So now I'm going to show you, first off, I'm going to show you an unconventional for loop. This looks a bit like something you might use in Python. So I'm going to say for I in my nums. Let me spell that right, my nums. Do, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to print my nums at index I -1. Okay. Now let's open up a terminal here, and let's run this. So I'll do Ruby and then 019 and then hit tab for auto completion. And we'll see here we print out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 3. Okay. And then it actually doesn't print out the last 2. Okay. So that's kind of interesting. Now let's try and get rid of the -1 here. And we'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to open up a terminal here and run this. And now we get 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4. Okay, so that's an interesting result, right? So let's take a look. And see we're using an unconventional for loop here. Okay, so let's try a more conventional way of printing this. Okay, so let's do mynums dot each do, and then within these pipes here, I'm going to create a variable called num, and I'm just going to do puts num. Okay, and in between the two of these, I want to just have a separator so we can see. So I'm just going to do puts and then just a bunch of these equal signs to create a separator here. All right, so I'm going to open the terminal back up, and let's now run this here. And now we see that everything's working fine. We're printing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 9, 18. So you want to stick with this conventional way of doing it to run into these without running into these weird outcomes. Okay, so that's the more conventional way of doing it in Ruby. And I'm going to create another file now just to follow along with my GitHub repo. We'll also call this 19b. We'll do a for loop. I'm going to do a little bit of FizzBuzz with you, which was an old way of assessing for interviews whether you could program or not. So let's do a new Ruby file. We're going to call this 019b underscore for underscore loop.rb. And let me close this out. Okay, so we'll do FizzBuzz. And basically FizzBuzz is printing numbers 1 through 100. And in FizzBuzz, if it's divisible by only 3, we print fizz. If it's divisible by only 5, we print buzz. And if it's divisible by both 3 and 5, we print FizzBuzz. Okay, otherwise we just print the number. All right, so we'll start with a little bit unconventional loop. So we'll do for in 1 ... 100. And then we'll have the end statement of the for loop. And we'll have an if, else if, else conditional. So we say if, and we'll start if it's both divisible by 3 and 5, because if it is both divisible by 3 and 5, it's going to just do that condition. But if it's divisible by 3 and 5, and we started with divisibility by 3, for instance, it would also meet that condition, and it wouldn't go down to the condition where it's divisible by 3 and 5. So we have to start with the most exclusive condition first. Okay, so we're going to do I modulo 3. If I modulo 3, if that equals 0, that means it's divisible by 0, and I modulo 5 double equals 0. So it's if both the remainders of dividing by 3 and 5 equals 0, then it's divisible by 3 and 5. We're going to puts FizzBuzz. Okay, we'll do an else if here. And now we'll do a less exclusive condition. So we'll do I modulo 3. If the remainder of I divided by 3 is 0, then we'll just puts fizz. And next up, we'll do if I is divisible by 5, we'll do a puts buzz. And then the last condition, if it meets none of the top conditions, we'll just print out the number. Okay? All right, so now let's run this. So I'm going to open up a terminal. I'm going to clear all the stuff out. Let's type clear because it's giving me some weird stuff where it's not showing this. I'm going to do Ruby 019b and then hit tab to autocomplete, hit enter, and you'll see it runs through. We go up, we start up here. 1, 2, it's divisible by 3, 4, buzz, so on and so forth, 15 FizzBuzz, and so on, all the way up to 99, which is divisible by 3, and 100, which is divisible by 5. So we've done FizzBuzz. Cool. That's some for loops in Ruby, but that's not the only kind of loops. We also have while loops, and I like to use while loops when I'm creating worksheets and that kind of thing, instead of for loops in Ruby. Okay, so I'm going to create another file. We're going to call this 020a. So it's a Ruby file. We'll call it 020a underscore while underscore loop.rb. Close out the side panel here. And for a while loop, let's just make a comment that we're making while loops. For a while loop, we're going to need some kind of index. So I'm going to call that count, and I'm going to set it equal to 1. You could also set it equal to 0 if you wanted to. But we'll do fizzbuzz with a while loop. So we'll say while count is less than 101. And if we're doing fizzbuzz with the while loop, we do have to start at 1. And we'll start off with our conditional. So we'll say if count modulo 5, if that's divisible by 5 and count is divisible by 3, what are we going to do? We are going to print fizzbuzz, okay? And then we'll do our else if, count modulo, and we can do 5 first if we want, because both 5 and 3 are the same. It doesn't matter. If one's divisible by 5, it's not divisible by 3, unless they're divisible by both. Okay, hope that made sense. We're going to print buzz, and then we can do divisibility by 3. We can print fizz, and then we'll do another else statement. We'll put just the count, okay? And one thing we have to be very careful of in this while loop is we have to increment the count each time through. So we have to say count, and then we can increment it by saying plus equals 1. So we're adding 1 throughout the loop. Okay, so let's open up the terminal. Let's do Ruby 020, hit tab to autocomplete, and hit enter. And look at that. We've got a nice fizzbuzz there. Same thing, and it works. Okay, cool. So that's some while loop with fizzbuzz. And let's do some more while loop. Let's create another file here. And I'm going to call this one 020b. So it's a Ruby file. It's going to be 020b underscore while underscore loop.rb. Again, my IDE is adding that for me. And we can also do a while loop and get user input. So this is kind of a nice way to use a while loop. So let's create a variable. We'll call it do underscore continue and set it equal to y. And we'll do this while loop. We'll say while do underscore continue double equals y. Well, we're going to run some code. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to print do you want to continue? And we'll do either yes or no, right? And we'll say do continue. We have to do this. We have to get user input equals gets.chomp.downcase. So this is just checking, if they enter an uppercase y, it'll just make it lowercase y. If they enter an uppercase anything but y, it'll stop, okay? So now let's try this. And we're going to run 020b, hit tab to autocomplete it. Do you want to continue? Yes. Do you want to continue? Yes. Do you want to continue? Yes. Do you want to continue? No. And it stops, okay? So that's another cool thing you can do with while loops in Ruby. Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up for loops in this video. I hope you found this video interesting. And if you did, could you please give it a like and share with like-minded people? Also, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing, as it really does help the channel grow. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye. Hi, YouTube. This is Timothy Unkert from unkertmedia.com, and today we're going to talk about classes in Ruby. So this is part of my Ruby mega tutorial, and what I'm going to do is create a file, and along with the naming scheme that I've been using, you see I've numbered all these files here. So if you see, we've just finished with 24, so we're up to file 25. So I'm going to create a new Ruby file, I'm going to call this 025a underscore classes .rb. My IDE will add the .rb extension. Okay, so we've got that file creating there, and let's close out the side view here. And let's create a class. So make a comment. This is about creating classes in Ruby. Okay, so to create a class, we're going to use the keyword class, and we're going to do it in uppercase, which is the convention. And then we have this thing, attr underscore assessor. And what the attr underscore assessor does is it helps us to clean up our code, make it dry, do not repeat yourself, clean up the getter and setter methods. Okay, so we're going to use this attr underscore assessor, and then we can do colon. So we can do f name for a variable, and then a comma, l name, and a comma, and age. So my teacher class is going to have a first name, a last name, and an age. Okay, so now we're going to create a new, basically a new instance of the class, and I'm going to store it in a variable called Ruby underscore teacher. So I'm going to say Ruby underscore teacher equals teacher dot new, and then we'll start giving it some of the attributes. So we'll say Ruby underscore teacher dot f name equals, and then this is going to be a string, so it's going to be Tim. Ruby underscore teacher dot l name equals, we'll say Unkert, and Ruby underscore teacher dot age equals 46. Okay. Now let's use items from the class to print something out. So let's do puts, and we'll say Ruby underscore teacher dot f name plus, and we'll do a space here, and because we're concatenating some strings together, Ruby underscore teacher dot l name plus, we'll do a space is and another space, and we'll say Ruby underscore teacher dot age, and we want to make this a string, so we'll do 2s, and my line is getting a little bit long. Oh well, but part of it's I have the font really jacked up, and then we'll do plus years old. Okay. All right. So let's see what this prints. So I'm going to open up a terminal here, and I'm going to run this by Ruby, and then 025, hit tab, hit enter. And we say Tim Unkert is 46 years old. Now I should have added a space before the year, so let me fix that. So let's add a space here. Okay, so now let's open up the terminal again. Just hit the up arrow to rerun it. And we'll see that Tim Unkert is 46 years old. So we're using attributes from the class. Cool. All right, let's go down here a bit, and let's create another class. And we want this class to inherit from the teacher class. So the way we can do that in Ruby is we can do a class keyword, and then we can name the new class, so student, and we want it to inherit from the teacher class. So I'm going to use this less than symbol. Some people call it a chevron, I believe. So it's going to inherit from the teacher class. And then down here, we can use our attribute assessor, and we'll do student ID. Okay, so we're going to add a student ID on. Okay, so now if we go down below this class, we're going to create a new instance of the student class. So we'll do student underscore 1 equals student dot new. Okay, and now we can give this student some attributes. So we can say student underscore 1 dot fname equals Joe. Student underscore 1 dot lname. I'll do the lname with the equals here. It gives me that nice equals Schmo. And then student underscore 1 dot age. Let's do that with the equals. Makes it easier on me. Let's make him 23, so half my age. And then student underscore 1 dot student ID equals 001. Okay. And let's print this out. Okay, so we'll do puts student underscore 1 dot fname plus a space plus student underscore 1 dot lname plus, we'll do a space is and a space, do student dot underscore 1 age, make it a string, so 2 underscore s, and I'm going to do a backslash here just to signify that I want to have a new line, and I'm going to do a plus symbol here, and we'll do a space, years old, and has student ID. Let's do another backslash here. We'll do plus student 1 dot student ID dot to string. We'll do a plus and just end with a period. Okay. And we see we have a little issue here because I should have put a plus. Okay, everything looks good. Let's run it. So we'll do Control T to open up the terminal. And then we'll run it. And we get Joe Schmo is 23 years old and has student ID 1. Okay. All right, I want to continue with classes a little bit, but I think I'm going to make a new file. And let's see. Yeah, I'm going to make a new file. So I'm going to go over here and create a new Ruby file. Call this 025b underscore classes.rb and move this over. Okay. So I'm going to create a class teacher. I'm going to create the attribute assessor. Fname, we'll have last name, we'll have age, we'll also have the website, so we'll have something else. And then we'll initialize, we'll have a method to initialize the class. So I'm going to say def to define a method, initialize, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do, just in parentheses, I'll do first name, last name, age, and website. And we'll say at fname equals fname, at last name equals last name, at age equals age, and at website equals website. Okay, so what does this help us do? Well, I can go down below my class and create a new instance of the teacher class and set all the attributes right from the initialization. So I can say Ruby underscore teacher equals teacher dot new, and we'll say first name is Timothy, last name is Unkert, not Wunkert, Unkert, age is 46, and then the website is https unkertmedia.com. Again, I'm running a little bit long. The important thing to remember is my website is unkertmedia.com. You do want to check that out. Okay, so now we can go down here and we can start to print out something with this class. So I'm going to do a puts and say your Ruby teacher is, we'll do plus Ruby teacher dot fname. I'm going to do a backslash here to get to avoid the long line, and we'll say we'll do a space here so we can concatenate a space. We'll do Ruby teacher dot lname plus we'll do a comma who is, see if you can figure out what I'm actually printing out here. We'll do a plus. Avoid the long line there. We'll do Ruby underscore teacher dot age. Make sure it's a string. So we'll do 2s plus years old and whose website is. I think that's the most important part, is to remember to go to unkertmedia.com. And then we have ruby.teacher website. Oh, not ruby.teacher, ruby underscore teacher dot website dot to underscore s. And we'll concatenate a period on there. Okay, let's open up a terminal. And I'll do Ruby 025b, hit tab, and then run this. And we see your Ruby teacher is Timothy Unkert, who is 46 years old and whose website is this unkertmedia.com. I could even click on this on the IDE and it will open up to my website. That is pretty cool. And there we go. It's starting to load. It's loading a little slow because of the recording. You see, wow, I have a C++ mega tutorial there. I have some games I've created, literacy and NumGuess, kind of cool, and a bunch of articles here. So yeah, if you want to check out that website, that would be kind of cool. All right, that was a very shameless plug. Let's get back to our Ruby lesson here. Okay. All right, so we can also create a class of student that inherits from the teacher class. So I'm going to go down here and say class student. And we're going to do the less than symbol, teacher. So it's inheriting from the teacher class. We're going to have attr underscore assessor. We'll do student ID. Okay, so we're adding the student ID. And we're also going to have an initialization function. I don't want that. But notice how it's populating all this stuff, and then I want to add the student ID. Okay, and down here I'm going to say at fname equals fname, at lname equals lname, at age equals age, at website equals website, and then at student ID equals student ID. Okay. All right, so that's our student class. And now let's just go and we'll say student underscore one, and we can do this all in one line. So student.new, we'll do Joe Schmo, it's 23. We'll just say nil for the website because he doesn't have one. And then his ID. And so we see here that we can now print this stuff out. So I could do puts student one, let's do dot website, and also puts student one dot, let's print out a student ID. So if we wanted to run a program to do that, we could do that. Okay, yeah, we should have probably named this student underscore ID. That's what my IDE is telling me. I'm not following the Ruby naming conventions. Notice the warning goes away, but we do need to fix this. Okay. All right, now let's open up a terminal here and run our file. And we've got an error. Okay, undefined local variable. Yeah, because I forgot to also fix it here. So let's do that. Fix it here as well. Whoops, change the font size. Sorry about that. There. There we go. Back font size back to normal. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't match the riches. I should have used lowercase, but anyways, that's just a naming convention. Let's clear this out and let's rerun. And we see that, it prints out the first part and then print out the student's website, which is nil. They don't have one, and the student ID. Okay, I think that's it for this video. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, could you please give it a like and share it with like-minded people, as it really does help the channel grow. And you know what else helps the channel grow? Subscribing to my YouTube channel. So if you haven't done so, please do so. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hi, Timothy Unkert from UnkertMedia.com here. If you've been following along with my Ruby tutorials up to this point, you may have noticed I skipped files 21 through 23. So I jumped ahead and I forgot to talk about file methods in Ruby. So let's talk about that in this video. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file, and I'm following along with my naming convention here. So I'm going to call this file 021 underscore writing underscore 2 underscore a file.rb. My IDE will add that for me. Okay, so let's create that file. So we're going to write to a file in this, use this file to write to a file. Okay, so we're going to say file equals, and then we'll start with an uppercase file.open, and I'm going to give a name for the file. It's going to be in the same folder, so we'll call it fizzbuzz. I know I do a lot of fizzbuzz. Fizzbuzz.txt. And then I'm going to give a comma here and just in quotes a W, meaning that we are writing to the file. Okay, so I'm going to do a for loop here, and we'll write to our file the fizzbuzz. So we'll say for I in 1.100 do, and we'll say if I modulo 15 divisible by 3 and 5. If the remainder of that is 0, it's divisible by 3 and 5. We'll do file dot write. Now the file is a local variable. You see my IDE said that. And we'll do fizz buzz, and we'll also do a new line character so it doesn't get all crammed together on one line. We'll do an else if I modulo 3. If the remainder of I and 3 is 0, we'll write to the file, and we'll write just fizz with the new line character here. Also do another else if I modulo 5. If the remainder of I and 5 is 0, that's divisible by 5. We'll do file.write. File.write, and we'll do buzz with the new line character. And then finally, we'll do an else. We'll do file.write, and we're just going to write whatever I is. And then we'll do another file.write just for the new line character. So we'll do file.write, and then within double quotes here, we'll do a /n for a new line character. And then at the end of this, you want to close the file that you've opened. So you're going to do file.close. Okay? And that's it. So now we can go ahead and we'll open up a terminal here. Let's clear that out. And I'm going to run this file. So I'm going to do Ruby, I'll type 021, hit tab to autocomplete the file name, hit enter, and you'll see it ran. And let's close this out, and let's open the project view here. And we see we have this file, fizzbuzz.txt. So if I click on that, we see we now have this file that we've written to. We've written the fizzbuzz challenge into a file using Ruby. Okay, so not only can we write to a file, but we can also read from a file. So we're going to create another file, and this one, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to call it, it's a new Ruby file. I'm going to call it 022 reading a file that's with underscores .rb. Again, my IDE will add that for me, the .rb extension. let me close this out. All right. And we're going to create a local variable. I could call it f this time. Let's say f equals file dot open. We'll open the fizzbuzz.txt file. And then we're going to say f, we're going to create another variable. Let's call it f underscore data equals f dot read. Okay. And now let's just print out. We'll do puts file, f underscore data. Okay. And then again, we want to close the file that we've opened. So we're going to do f dot close. Okay. That's all there is to that. All right. So now let's open up the terminal. We'll do Ruby, type 022, hit tab to autocomplete the file name, hit enter. And we see we've read the fizzbuzz challenge from that file, fizzbuzz.txt. Okay. So that's reading from a file, pretty straightforward in Ruby. All right. Now let's go to, let's create another file. And we're going to call this, it's going to be 023 underscore other file methods.rb. Okay, close out the project view. All right, so we can rename a file. So to do that, we use this keyword file. It's with the uppercase. We'll do file dot rename, and then we do the old name, so fizzbuzz.txt, and then we'll rename it Tim underscore does underscore fizzbuzz underscore to underscore often dot txt. Okay. Now let's just run it. All right. So we'll do Control T. We'll go down here, clear this all out. We're going to do Ruby 023, hit tab to autocomplete, and hit enter, and it's run. And so now let's open up the project view here. And we see we don't have fizzbuzz.txt. We have Tim does fizzbuzz too often.txt. So we renamed the file. So it's as easy as that. Okay. We can also find the file size. So let's create a variable. We'll call it file underscore size equals file dot size. And then we give the name of the file. Tim does fizzbuzz too often.txt. Okay, now let's print out the file size. So we'll do puts and then file size. Okay, and we've already renamed the file, so we don't want to run it again because we don't have fizzbuzz.txt. We'll actually throw an error, so let's just comment this out. Okay, so now we'll open up the terminal here, and we'll do the up arrow to get the previous command, hit enter, and we see we have a file size of 413 bytes. Okay, so that's in bytes. All right. We can check if the file already exists. So like I said, the fizzbuzz.txt file was changed, so it doesn't exist now. So let's just create a variable. We'll call it fizzbuzz underscore exists, and we'll say it's equal to file dot exists with a question mark here. And then we'll give the file name, which is fizzbuzz.txt. Okay. All right. So now we'll print out fizzbuzz exists and see what it gives us. Okay. So let's open up the terminal. Let's do the up arrow to get the previous command and hit enter. And we see false because we don't have fizzbuzz.txt anymore because we renamed it. Okay, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about with file methods. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, could you please give it a like and share it with like-minded people, as it really does help the channel grow. What also helps the channel grow is making sure you hit that subscribe button. So please do that. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hi, Timothy Unkert from UnkertMedia.com here. In this video, I want to talk about rescue in Ruby. So let's create a file, and this is part of my Ruby mega tutorial. So I'm on file 24 for that. And so I'm going to create a new file, and it's a new Ruby file. I'm going to name it 024_rescue.rb. Now my IDE will add that for me, the .rb extension, but make sure you do that. Okay, so the first thing I want to create is an array. I'm just going to call it my_arr, and it's going to have some numbers in it, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Now, with rescue, you're going to have this begin where you're going to try out this code, and then it rescues you if there's an issue. Okay, so let's do a begin, and then we have an end. And first off, we're just going to do puts my array at index 3. Okay, and so that'll print out the number 4 because it's the fourth one is at index 3. So we go 0, 1, 2, 3. Should print out 4. Let's open up a terminal here. We'll run Ruby 024. I'm going to hit autocomplete, or hit tab to autocomplete, and we see we get 4. Nice. Now let's do puts my_array. Now let's pass in a string 3 and see what happens here. Okay, so let's open up the terminal and let's run it, and we see we get a type error here. No implicit conversion of string into integer. So our program breaks at this point. Well, with rescue, you can handle this. So what we could do is we could go down here and we can say rescue, and we'll rescue for our type error. Okay, and inside of rescue, what we'll do is we'll print out something like indices of the array must be integers. Okay, something like that. All right, so let's now try this again. So we'll run the program again, and we see instead of getting that big error message, we've got this rescue. When it's called the type error, indices of the array must be integers. Okay, cool. All right, so I also want to take in some user input here in this program. So let's go above our begin and our end, and let's get 2 numbers that someone can divide. Okay, so let's use print this time. We'll do print enter 2 numbers to divide, and we'll do a /n because we're using print, and then we'll print what is the numerator, so the top part of the fraction. Do a question mark and a /n there, and then we'll say my_num for numerator. You name it whatever you want, equals gets.chomp, and we'll do 2f for a float in case they want to enter in a float, and then we'll do a print, and we'll say what is the denominator, and actually for this numerator here, we'll just leave a space. We'll do the same thing here, leave a space, and we'll say my_den for my denominator equals gets.chomp, and we'll convert this to a float in case they want to enter in a decimal point number. Okay, and then we'll say something like, just in case they enter in a denominator of 0, we'll say my dn double equals 0, so 0.0. If it equals that, we'll make sure both are integers. So we'll say, really probably don't need to do this, but my num equals my num to I, and my denominator equals my denominator to I. Okay, so we're making sure that these are integers if it equals 0, but that's not going to take, that's going to still potentially cause a problem, right? So let's go down here and we'll comment this part out. Okay, and now we'll do something, we'll do a put statement here and say the quotient of the division is, and we'll do a plus my underscore num divided by my underscore denominator. And we'll make sure it's a float. We'll say to float. Doesn't really matter. That's not exactly what I'm trying to show you. All right, so now what I'll do is I'll open up the terminal here and let's run our program. And we see we're getting an issue here, a little warning, but we'll do a 5. What's the denominator? Let's do 0. Oh, look at that. We got a 0 division error. So you can't divide by 0 because it's undefined. So this breaks our program, but that's okay because we can rescue ourselves out of that as well. All right, so I'm going to go down. You can either go above this or below it. Let's just go below. We'll do a rescue, and we'll do a 0 division error. So it's going to rescue it from that. And we'll print out something like, listen, bro, you can't have a denominator of 0. And okay, so now let's run our program. Okay, so and actually I'm seeing another issue here. Let's hover over this. Cannot coarse float to or string to float to a common type. So maybe we'll do to underscore string, and then that issue goes away. We also have another warning here. Let's see. Local variable myArray is not used because we commented out this code. You know what? We can just comment this out as well. Okay, so all the warnings go away. All right, let's try this again. So we're going to open our terminal here, run our program. Let's do 20.4. What's the denominator? We're going to do 0.0. And it says, listen, bro, you can't have a denominator of 0. So it rescued us from breaking our program and told us what was wrong, okay? All right. Okay, I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to uncomment my array there. It's Control / in case you're wondering. And below this, we'll do, let's actually comment this out because we don't need it for this example. We'll do a puts, and we'll do a my underscore array dot fetch, and we'll fetch at, we'll try and get index 20. Okay, so we're trying to get index 20 and print it. Let's see what happens with this. So let's run Ruby, the program again. Enter 2 numbers to divide. I didn't comment that out, so let's do 4 and 3. And then we get an error here from fetch, okay? It says an index error. Index 20 is outside of the array bounds, okay? So we have an index error. Well, guess what? We can rescue our way out of that. And I'm going to show you something a little bit different in the syntax here. So I'm going to do a little difference here. So I'm going to do rescue and then index error. And I'm going to do this fat arrow, so an equal sign and then a greater than symbol. And then we'll say ERR for error, create a variable. And we'll say puts, and we're going to give them a message. And then what we're going to do is actually show the error with the message. And the message will be something like the array does not contain that index, bro. And so now let's run this. Okay, let's see what happens. So we're going to do open up our terminal, run our program. What is the numerator? Again, I didn't comment that out. And we see the array does not contain that index bro. Okay, so we didn't do anything with this yet because I was like, why did that not work? And then I realized I have to print it. So let's do puts error now. Okay, so now we're going to actually get what the error is. Okay, so let's open this up, rerun. Again, let's just do 7 and 3.2. And now we get the array does not contain that index bro. Index 20 outside of array bounds. Okay, so you get the error message in case you want that. So you can also do, let me close this out. You can also do this syntax here to get the error message. I think that's all I wanted to cover with rescue in this video. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a like as it will help get out to more people. And also consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. It really does help the channel grow. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hi, Timothy Unkert from UnkertMedia.com here. In this video, I want to talk about Ruby Lambda functions, Ruby Procs, and if time allows, also Ruby modules. So let's get started. This is part of my Mega Ruby tutorial. You'll see the file naming structure I've been using to this point. So we're up to file number 26. Again, I have some A, B's, so it's a little bit after the 26th file, but that's okay. I'm going to name this 026 underscore lambda underscore functions. And again, you have to add the .rb at the end. Okay, and we'll close out the project view here. So lambda functions are basically anonymous functions in Ruby. So lambda functions are anonymous functions in Ruby. And Python, really. Okay, so let's show you how you create a lambda function. So I'm going to create a lambda function that squares a number. So I'm going to call this square underscore num. And we use this keyword lambda. And then within curly braces, well, we'll have what variable we want to take in and be affected. So I'm going to put that in pipes, and I'm going to call that num. And then after that, what we want to return, so it's going to be num times num, okay? Likewise, you could also create a function that cubes numbers. So I'll do cube underscore num. That's going to equal lambda, and then within curly braces, and again, within pipes, we'll do the variable that wants to be affected, and we'll return that variable raised to the third power. So I'm using that double asterisk. Okay, so the cool thing about lambda functions is you can pass a lambda into another function. Okay, so we can pass a lambda function into another function. So for instance, let's create another function. We'll call this apply lambi, silly name. And we'll take in some lambda function, we'll call that lambi, and also take in a number, okay? And then what we'll do is we'll print out puts lambi, we'll use this dot call, and then the number, okay? Okay, so let me demonstrate how we would use this. So I'm gonna type out this function, apply lambi, I'm calling it. We're passing in a lambda function, so we're passing in square num, and we're going to pass in the number 16. And what is this going to do? Well, this is going to basically square 16 and then print it out, okay? So let's open up the terminal. Move this down, we don't need it that big. So we'll open up the terminal. Remember, we're going to square 16. So we'll do, to run this, we'll do Ruby 026. I'm going to hit tab to autocomplete the file name, hit enter. And there we get 256, which is 16 squared. Okay. Likewise, we can do this with the cube function. We'll do apply Lambda, silly function name, but whatever. Cube num, and then let's cube 8. That should give me 512. Let's open up the terminal, do the up arrow to get my previous command, hit enter, and we get 512, which is 8 cubed. So that's a little bit about using Lambda functions in Ruby. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is Procs. Okay. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to open up my project here, and let's create a new file. We're going to call this 027 underscore procs.rb, I think is what I named it. Yep. Hit enter. Let's close back the project view. And so let's talk about what a proc is. I'm going to make some comments here. So a proc object is and let's capitalize it. A proc is an encapsulation of a block of code. Oops, what's going on? Block of code. I don't know why it does that, which can be stored in a local variable. Okay, passed to a method or another proc and can be called. Okay. This might be called closures. Closures in other languages. So maybe you'll hear that keyword on an interview or something like that. All right, so let's talk about cubing a number with a proc. So cubing a number. So I'm going to say this variable cube, and then we'll use this keyword proc.new. We'll do some curly braces here. I don't know why this just keeps fading out. That's kind of annoying. And then we'll just call the variable x that we want affected. And what we're going to do is x and do the double asterisk. So x to the third power. You'll see the syntax is very similar with the Lambda function. Okay. So now what we can do is we can do puts cube.call. And we can pass in a number. Let's pass in 3. So we're going to cube 3. Okay. So if we cube 3, let's now open up a terminal here. Let's do Ruby 027, hit tab to autocomplete, hit enter, and we get 3 cubed, which is 27. Okay. We can also use procs for incrementing and decrementing and multiplying. So I'm going to create an incrementer function. So let's create an incrementer function, so it increases. So I'm going to do def to define this incrementer function. So incrementor, take in some value, okay? And then we're going to say proc new, and again, we'll just call the variable x, and we'll say x plus the value, okay? So now what I can do is create some other functions based off of this incrementer function. So I can say something like increase by 3 equals incrementer, and we'll pass in the value 3. And then I'm just going to duplicate this line here. Oops, duplicate the line. And we'll say increment by 5. I'll pass in 5 here. And now let's do puts increase by 3 dot call 10, and then puts increase by 5 dot call also 10. Okay. And so now let's open up a terminal and see what happens. Okay. So we'll use the up arrow here, hit enter, and we see we get 13 and 15. So remember, we cubed 3, that was 27. Then we took 10 and we increased by 3. Okay. And then we took 10 and we increased by 5. So we're using that incrementer function. Okay. Let's also go up here and create a multiplier function. So I'm going to define a function. We'll call it multiplier, taking a value. Okay, and we're going to say proc.new, and then within curly braces, again, we'll just call this x. This time we'll take x and we'll multiply it by the value. Okay, so x times val. Okay, so we'll create a function, let's call it multiply by 10, and that'll be the multiplier, and we'll pass in the value 10. And then we'll do divide by 10. This is interesting how we're going to do this. And we'll call the multiplier, no, not that one, the multiplier function, but we'll pass in 0.1, which is the same as dividing by 10, multiplying by 0.1. Okay, so now let's output some stuff. So let's print it out. We'll do multiply by 10, and we'll take 2 and multiply it by 10. And then we'll do puts divide by 10, and we'll take 300 and divide it by 10. Okay, let's open up the terminal. Let's clear it out and rerun this program. And we got an error. Did I mean multiplier? So where is this error? This is line 28. Let's see. Oh, we forgot dot call. We got to use the dot call. So we got to do dot call here and dot call here. Okay, so now let's try this again. Cool, and raise this up, and look at that. So multiply 2 by 10, we get 20. Multiply 300, or basically divide 300 by 10, we get 10. Okay, because we're multiplying by the 0.1, which is the same thing as dividing by 10. Okay, let me take a look and see, should we do modules and finish up this Ruby tutorial? Yes, because the modules file I have is pretty short, so we're going to keep with that. I'm going to open up my project view. This will be the last lesson in my Ruby Mega tutorial. We're going to create a new file. It's going to be 028 underscore modules.rb. Okay, and we'll close out the side here. Okay, so we're going to create our own module here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to need to create another Ruby file to make this work. So actually, I'm going to reopen my project view, and we're not going to name this file, but we're not going to name it with the number convention, but I'm going to call this just 1 underscore step.rb. Okay, and we'll close out this, and we'll create this file. So modules are a good way to organize methods. So let's make a note of that. Modules are a good way to organize methods. So I'm going to create a module. I'm going to use capitalize each word. So 1 step, and I'll create a function. It's going to call it create problem. And I'm going to pass in a num1 and a num2. And we'll create some problem. We'll say x plus, and then we'll do num underscore 1, change it to a string, plus, and then we'll say equals, and then we'll do num2, so num underscore 2 to string. Okay, so we're creating a problem, a math problem. We'll also have a create solution, so I'll say def to define the create solution method, and we'll also take in num1, a number 1 and a number 2, so 2 numbers, and we'll say that a variable difference equals num2 minus num1, and then we'll return x equals plus the difference, and make sure that's a string. Okay, so we've created this module 1 step. Okay, and let's go here, go back to my modules, And okay, so now let's go back to opening up this file. Go to this one. And I'm going to go at the top. I am going to require relative. And I'm going to do one step.rb. So I'm going to require that file. And I'm going to include one step. Notice my IDE is picking up that module that I just created. So I'll say problem one, create a local variable equals one step dot create problem. We'll give it two numbers, so 5 and 3, and then we'll say solution underscore one. It's another local variable is one step dot create solution. Pass in the same numbers, 5 and 3. And now what we'll do is we'll print out both. So we'll print out problem one and we'll print out the solution one. Okay. All right. So let's open up the terminal and we'll run. Well, actually, let's clear it. We'll run 028, hit a tab to autocomplete. And we'll see that the problem, we got a problem here, x plus 5. I did this because I'm a math teacher. I couldn't help myself. X plus 5 equals 3. So therefore, that's the problem. The solution is x equals -2. And this demonstrates how we would require a module in Ruby. I hope you found this mega tutorial on Ruby helpful. If you did, could you please give it a like and give this individual part of it a like, as it really does help the channel grow. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing for more tutorials like this. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.